Hello, everyone. What's up? Welcome. The doctor is in. Yes, it has been a far too long hiatus. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. And let me do a couple of housekeeping things here first. I'm going to check the noise levels. Let's see, volume mixer, we good here? Yes, perfect. Let me double check the sound alerts. Hello there. Alright, sound alerts are working, so we are good to go. Alright, let's get back into this. Would either of you care for a quarter pound of roast beef? Miss Starr. I guess she's out of lunches. You certainly are the curious sort, aren't you? Kind of like the first person who sucked a cow's nipple to discover milk. Still, I never thought you'd go digging up that case from 2 years ago. Everyone in this trial was involved in the SL9 incident. Not only that, but the murder occurred on the very day the evidence from that case was due for transferal. This can't all be attributed to mere coincidence. Aren't you forgetting something? You know, that little scene I happened to witness? The instant Lana stabbed Detective Goodman with a knife. No matter how much of the past you dig up, it won't change what I saw. Roast beef is meant to be savored when eaten. Hydration. Gotta love it. Miss Starr's hatred towards Lana. It all dates back to 2 years ago. Joe Dog, that's a name I'll not soon forget. We trailed him for half a year. Oh, the pressure. So I don't think I was ever more alive than I was then. Those days were steamier than a bowl of hot gravy. Poor old Jake Marshall, though, must have been going through hell. You mean because of his brother's death? They were close, those two. After Neil died, something took over Jake. He became obsessed. Seeing Jake like that made her all the more desperate. Her? Lana Skye. My sister? The best of the best was put on that SL9 case. Of course, they were led by that legendary duo. Lana and Chief Gant? That legendary pair was the reason we were able to keep up our investigation. That's why we were so shocked over how it turned out. You mean with the forging of the evidence? Don't get me wrong, Joe Dock got what he deserved. Still, it was obvious the evidence produced in court was being manipulated. Items our team never found would suddenly appear, while other items were kept secret. But you don't have proof anything illegal was done. I'm proof enough of what happened. After that case, all of us, save Goodman, were relieved of our duties. Most without even so much as an explanation. Then Lana Skye transferred to the prosecutor's office and became chief prosecutor. Lana always wanted to be a prosecutor. Nothing's quite as simple as it appears. Huh? Lana Skye was merely being used as a pawn. That's my take on the matter. She was being used? Damon Gant and Lana Skye. Gant led the investigation with Lana in second in command. They were the best. They solved all kinds of cases together, didn't they? Damon Gant's magnetism in particular was almost unreal. His magnetism? By that I mean his ability to attract evidence. He produced the most incredible evidence in the cases he handled. Incredible evidence? You mean... Oh yes, there were rumors about him even back then. No one dared confront him, though. I take it she's talking about forged evidence. Back then, everybody looked up to Lana. All the detectives wanted to be like her. Really? Oh yes, myself included. I was a fool, really. She hated anything crooked and always watched out for the other detectives. My cat is yowling in the background. She has a toy that she is, I guess, chasing around, as it were, even though it's not moving. That's why she was so concerned for Jake. Mr. Marshall. When Jake's brother was murdered, she felt as if she had lost her own brother. If it wasn't for her, I don't think Jake would ever have recovered from his shock. That's what makes it all the more infuriating. Miss Starr. That's why I'll never be able to forgive her. Why did she have to turn so cold after that? Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office 2 years ago, didn't she? Yes, thanks to Chief Gant's powerful influence. Chief... That's right, having solved the SL9 case, his position as chief was secured. There was only one thing left for him to control, and then no one could stand in his way. The prosecutor's office. What? You mean, that's why Lana was transferred? If he could control the chief prosecutor, he could control the prosecutor's office. That must have been his goal all along. But how could he control Lana? I don't know, but one thing's for sure. Ever since that case ended, she's never been the same. It's only logical to conclude there must have been a reason for her change. At last, I'm finally getting close to the bottom of this ugly mess. Thank you, Miss Starr. You listen to me, rookie. It takes more than just ingredients to create fine cuisine. In a way, they look kind of similar, but Angel's more, I guess, almost like a model in a way, and Lana's more almost military, if that makes sense. And hello, Edfan, thank you for joining. You could be wrong, but what if Angel was the one who killed Goodman? It's a possibility. We'll find out. I hope you turn out to be a better chef than I've been. Alright, so with that, I believe that means we've gotten all we can here. So let's head over to Edgeworth's office. Oh, nothing here. Back to the underground parking lot. Okay, forgive me. I honestly cannot remember what it was that we need to be doing right now. Okay. Edgeworth's discarded... Oh, I know. We need to go to speak with Detective Gumshoe.
Oh, you're back.
You're still here?
I gotta make 150 copies of these files. Brewing coffee, copying files. I'm turning into a regular DJ.
You're a DJ as well? If I'm not mistaken, I think he means desk jockey. Nothing a good flat iron and some product wouldn't cure. Oh, you're trying to insinuate that... what is it? Angel disguised herself as Lana. And thank you for the honk, Wild Talon. Appreciate it. How's your day been? Okay, yeah, that is a possibility. We will see for sure, though. Been tiring. I understand that. I'm doing a bit better today, actually. I was feeling a little under the weather this morning, but I was feeling better than I was yesterday, which just kind of improved throughout the day. So, yeah, that is why I am finally back to streaming tonight. It has been far too long. Oh, that DJ! Let's see. Glad you're feeling better. Lurking while I attend Star Trek Continues watch party. Nice, nice. Enjoy.
I gotta admire your persistency, but my answer's still no. I'm not letting you in the chief's office, period. It'd be my neck on the line.
That office is the last crime scene in the SL9 incident. I have to take a look in there. There's gotta be something we can do to make the detective change his mind. Well, I can think of one thing. Let's present Edgeworth's letter of resignation.
What's this crumpled up piece of paper? No way! Mr. Edgeworth can't be serious!
Is he ever not serious?
I can't believe they pushed him this far.
Mr. Edgeworth really feels responsible.
When I first met him, I thought he was as cold as ice, too. But I know different now. He trusted us detectives to provide him with sound evidence. Well, we betrayed him.
Detective?
That's it. I've made up my mind.
But...
Here, take my ID card.
You can't do that. If someone found out, they wouldn't let you off the hook with another lost item report.
Look at me. It's no secret I'm already out of the loop. After all, I'm friends with Mr. Edgeworth. Depending on how this case turns out, I may already be as good as terminated.
What?
So at least let me do this, for Mr. Edgeworth's sake.
All right, Detective. Thank you. And now... Oh, wrong button. Let's see. Move. Here goes, Mr. Wright. We're in! If anyone finds us now, Detective Gumshoe's a goner.
If that happens, I'm counting on you to bail me out. Eek! Gah!
Sorry, I thought you were a ghost.
I didn't even know you could slap a ghost.
Ah, Detective Gumshoe! What are you doing sneaking up on us like that?
I wasn't sneaking. I was just worried something might go wrong. So I came too.
If you're here, then what's the point of giving us your ID card? Gumshoe's ID crushed and rendered unusable in pocket.
Hey, don't do that to my card! Hardly ever get a chance to come in here, so I figured I'd have a look around myself. Besides, we're all in this together now.
You really do want to get fired, don't you?
Not if we're lucky. Now come on, let's see what we can find out.
I've got a bad feeling about this. Alright, let us... This is a safe, isn't it?
Safe. That word is ripe with intrigue.
Okay, if you say so. It looks like a code needs to be entered in this panel to open it. A 7-digit number. I think I might just know what it is. Okay, there's got to be a 7-digit number then, somewhere. Let's see here. Nope, I don't think... Well, no, that's not it. SL9 incident files. Nope. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's this missing this ID. The 77. Thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking of here.
Do you know what it is?
I have a hunch.
Oh, I know. You want to try my birth date. It's...
I have a better idea. Here goes nothing. Oh, the link isn't working? Code confirmed. Access granted. There we go. That is a terribly insecure password. Bingo. What number did you enter?
Whose birthday was that, pal?
7777777. The final ID card on that. The final ID card number on that record. What? The number of the mysterious executive officer who entered the room that day?
You mean 777777? That ID number?
I think you're 1-7 shy this time. This can only mean one thing. That's Chief Gant's ID number. Say, anyone care to look inside? Like, seriously, that is a horribly insecure password, especially considering that that's a... what is the word I'm looking for here? It's especially considering that's a number anyone can just look up and relate to Chief Gant.
Is there any money in there? How much does he have stashed away?
Look, it's a,
A shard from a broken cup.
This somehow looks familiar. Where have I seen this before? There's something else hidden here, too. What's this? Looks like a piece of leather cloth. This is a handprint, isn't it?
Hey, I saw someone wearing a shirt like that once. You think the chief made up the design?
I don't think so.
Oh, well, it was just a thought.
Is that it? This is all that was in the safe? Apparently so. It's empty now.
A piece of cloth with a handprint on it and a broken shard from a cup.
They look like pieces of evidence.
Yeah, but unless you can prove they have something to do with this case, I'm afraid I can't just let you take them. After all, it's my neck on the line here.
Great. Now I have to prove their relevancy to get them. How are these two items related to the SL9 incident? Come on, there's got to be something we can show the detective. Oh, wait. Alright, so let's go back. And let's present the rest of that vase. Detective Gumshoe, could you have another look at this jar?
I remember when the three of us put that back together. Oh, those were the days.
It's kind of early to be nostalgic. Wasn't this jar a piece of evidence from that case?
Yeah, that's right. One of those shots had an SL9 incident sticker on it.
Doesn't this ring any bells? You know, that fragment we just found?
You mean this one that was in the safe?
Yes, that one. That was in the safe.
Now that you mention it, it's ringing a lot of bells. Let's see if it fits.
Here, let me see that shard. Thank you for the lurk, Wild Talon. I'll take a crack at this.
Go ahead, pal. Show us what a rookie can do.
Mr. Wright, here's some glue. If I can piece this together again, it'll prove Chief Gant was knowingly hiding evidence. Here goes. Oh, well, I guess I don't need to rotate it. It looks like it's in perfect shape right now, so... There! Fits like a charm. That, of course, means... Chief Gant willingly and knowingly hid a piece of this jar in his safe. In other words, he concealed a piece of evidence from the SL9 incident. But...
Hey guys, get a load of this!
What is it?
This piece you just attached. It's different from the others.
There's a reddish line on it. A reddish line. That's blood.
I don't get it. Why would Chief Gant hide this in his safe?
Alright, let's try...
I feel a lot better now that this jar is complete.
But it only raises another question. What was a piece of it doing in the Chief's safe?
More importantly, why wasn't there any money in there? Isn't that what safes are for, anyway?
I have a feeling the outcome of tomorrow's trial just might hinge on this. In the meantime, it's time to figure out exactly what that cloth was all about. Alright, let's see. Wow, look at the size of Chief Gant's desk! Speaking of that, when we were here earlier...
Oh, it's you two.
Chief Gant! He put that paper he was reading in his desk. I wonder what he was reading.
This looks like a list of evidence.
A list of evidence?
In most cases, the list runs twice as long as this, though.
Hey, look at the case name.
Huh? SL9 incident? I wonder what this is doing here.
Hold on, Detective. What did you just say?
I said, I wonder what...
No, about evidence list. Normally they're twice as long.
That's right. I guess there wasn't a lot of evidence.
A half-size list of evidence. The list of evidence. It seems too short. Most lists run twice as long. What would the other half of the list be doing here? I knew it! The Chief must be hiding something about that case! It would appear so. Alright, let's analyze the list. And if I will just remember that A is not where it is expected to be here. Oh, hello, what's this? What if Chief Gant was in on the murder of Jake's brother? Could be onto something. I wonder what this is. Looks like someone drew some kind of sketch here. What is it? Did you find something? I can't make it out. I better keep quiet about it for now. Huh? Oh, no, it's nothing. Why are your eyes moving about like that, Mr. Wright? I better not forget about this picture. This is the real deal, isn't it? This armor and these weapons.
Sure is, pal. The chief doesn't care for imitations.
First the pipe organ, now this armor? Do you know how many taxpayer dollars must have gone into this room? What? You mean we're paying for this? That's it. I'm not paying 1 cent of my taxes. You don't have any taxes to pay.
Shh. Be careful of what you say. Who knows, the chief may be hiding in this armor as we speak.
I don't think he'd fit in there. Even if he did, he'd never be able to get back out.
Cut it out, you guys don't know how scary that guy can be.
You can see pretty far from 15 stories up. If you were to drop that suit of armor from here...
At the first, the chief wanted to use stained glass from this window.
Really? Why didn't he?
They say he changed his mind because he wouldn't be able to see the view.
Oh. Stained glass or not, it's a huge window.
The chief's organ sure is a sight to behold. Occasionally we hear him playing it from the Criminal Affairs Department.
That's on the 2nd floor, and this is the 15th floor of an entirely different building.
When a detective screws up, the chief calls him to his office and makes him listen to the organ for hours.
What's so bad about that? Music soothes the soul.
After that, the detective can't hear anything for days except the ringing in his ears. Their ears, whatever.
So it's an instrument of punishment. Literally. But aren't the chief's ears affected?
He never listens to anyone anyway.
That's beside the point. Alright, let's check this side of the room.
Look at that giant window. Makes you want to crash through it and jump outside.
This is the 15th floor.
I know, I was just saying.
Saying what?
Ever since making Detective, I always dreamed about doing something like that.
Note to self, Detective Gumshoe has a lot of dreams. So long as he doesn't go crashing through that window when he gets fired. Don't say that! These shelves are mostly empty. Lana must have cleaned them out when she transferred over to the prosecutor's office. There's a small picture frame on the left shelf. Hey! This is when Lana and I went to that theme park. This was Lana's desk. It sure is tidy. Lana's always been a meticulous cleaner. There's not even any dust on it. It looks like someone's still keeping it clean. Does Lana ever come back here?
No. Chief Cam will still keep it clean in memory of their partnership. They were the stuff legends are made out of.
Does he keep it in memory of her or in memory of the crime? This was taken on that day 2 years ago. The day Joe Dark ran out of the questioning room and tried to kill Emma.
After receiving his award trophy, Mr. Marshall took a picture here. It went along with Chief Kent to question Doc. Bet he never knew he'd be dead just a few hours later.
Gee, you think? I mean, it's not exactly something a lot of people think about before it happens. Or at least not right before it happens. Good grief. This mark looks like some kind of flower.
What is it's designed after the insignia on the prosecutor's badge.
Prosecutor's badge?
Yeah, like the one hanging from your collar.
What? They have badges too?
The design's supposed to portray the severity of the punishment system.
Now that you mention it, it does look all pointy and kind of painful. But Mr. Edgeworth never wears a badge.
That's because he's a sharp dresser. A badge like that wouldn't go too well with his outfit.
So sharp dressers don't need to wear badges?
I guess everyone just kind of lets it slide.
I don't see how that's supposed to signify severe punishment. Let's see. Wow, look at the size of Chief Gant's desk. We found this inside the drawer, a list of the evidence from the SL9 incident. Mr. Edgeworth had the other half of that list. What would this list be doing here? We better look more into this list. Alright, so with that, I think I have examined everything I can. So now it is time for conversing. That desk on the other side of the room, was that your sister's? Yes, that's where I was waiting for Lana. On that day 2 years ago. Is anyone using it now?
No, sir. This is entirely Chief Gant's office now. He practices a strict policy of preserving the crime scene.
That's a strange reason to leave it there.
He leaves it as a warning to everyone else. He wants us to always be alert. He told us so himself at a New Year's party. Of course, he was pretty intoxicated at the time.
I see. So ever since Lana left, no one ever touches that desk?
No one except Chief Gant and the cleaning lady who's in here each morning.
Still, 2 years have passed since that incident. There can't possibly be any clues remaining.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
You only came here to look around, right? Because it's one of the SL9 crime scenes. I mean, that's your only reason for coming here, isn't it?
Why do you ask? Alright, I need to adjust my seat. I'm having trouble keeping up Gumshoe's voice at this angle.
You don't think you wouldn't be... Nah, no. Nah, there's no way. Never mind. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Now then, let's look around a bit more.
Hey, hold on! Not so fast, buddy!
Huh? What is it?
When someone tells you don't worry about it, it's supposed to stop bothering you, pal! You don't just let it go at that!
Sorry. This guy's starting to get on my nerves. Okay, so what's bothering you?
You two don't think Chief Gant might be a suspect, do you?
What? He's right, Mr. Wright. What do we think of him? Chief Gant. So it's finally come to this. What do I think of him? Perhaps it's best I don't divulge my feelings. Yet.
There you go, ignoring me again.
Alright, let's present some evidence. Present the evidence list. That's what the chief was reading before, isn't it? You know, when we first came in here? Yeah, it looks like the right side of the form's been torn off. So Mr. Edgeworth's list really was half the whole thing. Only half of the whole thing.
Something else is bugging me more than that. Take a look at the back of this form, pal.
The back? I already looked. Let's see. Take a look at the... Let's look at the autopsy report. Okay, singles... Okay, I don't think that's relevant yet. Maybe if we present the Gant team picture.
If I'm fired, I won't be able to give you any information. So that's why I have to get it all out of my system now. You understand, don't you?
Don't be so negative, Detective. We do want you to share your information, though.
Oh, who am I fooling? I never had anything useful to share to begin with.
Ugh, got to stay positive. Oh, yeah, that could be it.
Can't believe Officer Marshall would do something like that.
You know Officer Marshall?
Of course I do. He was like a mentor to me. When I first started out, he even gave me a small cactus.
Really?
He said, Dick, she'll listen to all your troubles.
Note to self, Detective Gumshoe talks to a cactus.
Hard to believe he's just a patrolman now. Someone ought to trade places with him. What? Why are you looking at me like that?
Okay, let's see. Lost item report?
Oh, a lost item report, huh?
Very impressive, Detective. You knew what it was right off the bat.
Well, I'm a master of misplacement, you know.
Master, that has such a cool ring to it.
The way I see it, if things are meant to be lost, then they're meant to be lost. There's a higher power at work here.
Wow, a higher power. Maybe I shouldn't let Emma hold any evidence. Oh, huh. Detective Gumshoe, I'd like you to have a look at this.
Hey, I know what that is. So you want to take some fingerprints?
That's a great idea, Detective.
Alright, go to town. Sheesh.
What are you doing? Why are you sticking out your hand like that?
Go ahead, take my fingerprints.
It's not your fingerprints we want to take.
Huh?
Come on, this isn't the time for jokes. We're talking about the cloth we found in the safe.
Oh, I knew that. The one with the handprint on it, right? Sheesh, where's your sense of humor?
Okay, Mr. Wright, let's check for prints. Sprinkle the powder on the cloth. Then, once they've been absorbed into the prints, blow the rest away. What are you, my mom? I don't have to be told a million times. Alright, let's get this over with. And we're dusting for prints. It should be sufficient coverage, I think. Maybe a little bit more down here at the bottom. And... Alright, let's see. It's not Damon Gatz. Not Angels. Emma. Comparison complete. Match found. No, how can this be? What are Emma's fingerprints doing here? Hey, you found a match? Whose fingerprints were they? It seems the prints are too old. They aren't clear enough to get a match. Oh, that's too bad. I thought they'd be Dark's prints.
Psst. Hey, you, over here. What's going on here? What are that kid's prints doing inside the chief's safe?
Don't ask me. Let's just keep this information from Emma for now.
Here, maybe you should hold on to this. Well, was I any help?
Of course. Thanks to your ID card, we were able to get some hard evidence.
Well, that's not very kind, is it? In other words, if it wasn't for his ID card, he would have been useless. Isn't that right, you in the coat? Chief Gant!
We didn't think you'd be back so soon.
Unfortunately, I'm a man who believes in signs. As I was walking to my meeting, I happened to look out a window and saw a stray dog run right into a pole. Just then, I saw a certain detective. Do you mean me, sir? Now then, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you all to leave.
You got me on your TV, nice. Yes, sir, sorry.
Oh, you in the coat? Me, sir? Drop off your ID card on the way out. You won't be needing it anymore. But, sir! Now get out! Yes, sir!
We'll be on our way too, then.
Wait, you the one without the spiky hair? Don't go yet.
Me, sir?
I'd like a word with you.
But, sir, I'm not a licensed scientific investigator yet.
You with the spiky hair, you're free to go.
Mr. Wright!
Look, pal, if I told you once, I told you 1,000 times. The chief's office is off limits. But no, you just had to go sneaking in there like that, didn't you?
I thought you said you didn't care anymore if you were fired.
Yeah, but if I knew it'd be like this, I never would have said it.
Now that I've seen the evidence Chief Gant was hiding in his office, I think I'm finally starting to get the picture. But why has she kept eerily silent about it all this time?
Anyway, you listening to me? I'm gonna try to smooth things over with the chief again. Later, pal.
After that, I heard from Emma. She said the police wanted to ask her some questions, so she'll be busy for the rest of the day. I see. So the chief asked Emma to come in for questioning. It's no use thinking about it. Tomorrow's the final day in court. I'm committed to doing everything I can to defend you, which is why I'm here. But I've already told you all I can. What you've told me over these past couple of days is absolutely nothing. Not a single useful thing. Really? I believe I did mention something quite important. Something I told you right at the beginning. I said that I was the one who stabbed Detective Goodman. You know, I think I finally figured it out. I know who it is that's lurking behind your words. Mia did a good job mentoring you. I'm rather jealous. It seems Edgeworth was right. Edgeworth? Once you're convinced you know something, no one can persuade you otherwise. Thick-headed is the term he used, I believe. Now's my chance to get her to tell me the rest of the story. I have to admit I was more than a little perplexed at first. You insisted you did it, that there was no incriminating evidence. That's when it hit me. It's not that you're unwilling to tell the truth. It's that you're incapable of doing so because of a certain individual. What an intriguing notion. A certain individual, you say? So you think I'm protecting this person? Protecting? No, I think afraid of is more like it. If I'm not mistaken, the person in question may have persuaded you to silence. For argument's sake, Mr. Wright, whom may I ask is this person you're speaking of? The one I am supposedly so frightened of. What's this person's name? Well, it's nice of them to highlight the answer right like that right away. Well, Miss Skye? Mr. Wright, you are addressing the chief prosecutor. Do not forget your place. I take it she's still not ready to spill the beans. My apologies. Could you please tell me a bit more about what you think you know? We were partners until 2 years ago. I respected him as a detective. Assuming he is respectable, then tell me something. Why would he try to hide his crimes? His crimes? Both you and Edgeworth will be brought before a board of inquiry for what you did. Specifically, hiding and forging evidence. Of course, these are serious offenses. Why is it, though, that Chief Gant's name was never mentioned? Chief Gant? Edgeworth didn't know the truth behind the forgery. The only party who could possibly have tampered with the evidence was me. I had access because I was second in command of that investigation. Yes, you, but also one other, Damon Gant. Welcome, Reeve. How you doing? If you intend to accuse Chief Gant, you'll need more than just words. Show me proof that Chief Gant falsified evidence in that case. Holding it best you can? Yeah, I understand. Lord bless you. I just found this in a safe in the chief's office. This jar piece and this piece of cloth. Do you know what these are? They're pieces of evidence from the SL9 incident. The person concealing evidence was none other than Chief Gant himself. Now tell me, why are you taking all the blame for him? Touché, Mr. Wright. It is as you surmised. I cannot disobey the Chief's orders, even if it means being found guilty for murder. Why not? Come now, Mr. Wright. You can't possibly expect me to be able to tell you that. 3 days ago, I had no choice but to cooperate. In the murder of Detective Goodman. Or perhaps I should say follow orders. Yes, that's more accurate than cooperate. Although I can't tell you the details. I can say that I was given an order that day.
I need you to dispose of Bruce Goodman's body. You'll find it inside the trunk of Miles Edgeworth's car.
Just as I suspected. Despite what everyone believes, you were not the one who murdered Detective Goodman. Correct. I was trying to take the body out of Edgeworth's car. The trunk's lock was broken, and I discovered that murder weapon while inspecting the body. The murder weapon? You mean Edgeworth's knife? No. When I found the body, this knife was the knife stuck in it. The knife from the SL9 incident. Serial killer Joe Dark's knife. I couldn't just leave that knife in him, so I took it out and stabbed him with another knife. That would be Edgeworth's knife? That's right. Even though he's already dead, my hands were shaking at the thought of stabbing him. That's why I ended up cutting at my own hand. And that's the reason for the bandage on your right hand? Yes. It seems that I got blood on the victim's shoes as well. And then... she saw me just as I plunged the knife in. Miss Starr, huh? Why did you need to hide Dark's knife so badly? It took a lot of work to finally close the Dark case 2 years ago. It was over with. I didn't ever want it to be opened again. My intent was to prevent that by whatever means possible. So, you hid Dark's knife. The weapon used to stab the detective was evidence in the Joe Dark case. If word got out, which it would, the reporters would have a field day with that. So you wrapped the knife in your scarf and hid it. In Edgeworth's exhaust pipe. Right, then I called my sister. To tell her what happened and to ask her to hide the knife that was inside my muffler. She hid the knife in the muffler. In a muffler. Nice. You asked Emma? I didn't want anyone on the force to know about this. That would explain why Emma is so confident about Lana's innocence. Speaking of phone calls, I had a bad feeling about one of them that day. A bad feeling? The truth is, after I received those orders from Chief Gant, the first thing I did was make a phone call. A phone call to Patrolman Jake Marshall. To Marshall? Why on earth would you call him? The lead investigator for the SL9 incident had been murdered. I wanted that fact to be kept hidden, and I needed help. He was the only other person I could trust. Or at least I thought I could trust him at that time. However, it seems that after I spoke to him, he went off on an escapade of his own. Oh, you mean... not wanting the case to die, he decided to take things into his own hands. He disguised himself as Detective Goodman and tried to steal the evidence. He had already stolen the ID card, but it seems he still hadn't made up his mind to break into the evidence room. After my phone call, any remaining doubts he had must have disappeared. So your phone call caused the incident in the evidence room? Hold on, there we go. All done. I'm afraid that's all I can tell you. But Lana, you've earned my respect, Mr. Wright, both as a defense attorney and an investigator. Now please, don't pursue this any further in court tomorrow. Tomorrow's trial. There's only one way to drive off Lana's demons. I've got to get to the bottom of everything. Detective Goodman's real murderer. And what went down in the chief's office 2 years ago. Okay, I'm going to take a real quick break and refill my water cup, so I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. So let us continue. There we go. Had to adjust my mic again. This is the defendant lobby, alright, but there's no defendant. Been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? And where's Emma, for that matter? It almost seems as if... something's been happening behind the scenes. Edgeworth! Knowing you, you've already figured it out. Who the owner of the 7777777 ID number is, that is. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt regarding this ID record. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. Pardon me. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True, not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling. 5 minutes, right, and Chief Prosecutor Skye will be found guilty. But she didn't do it! I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here, to hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth? Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid. Today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, Wright. This is it. If I'm ever going to find out what Chief Gant has on her, it's now.
Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye.
The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
Normally, this is where the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. Before that, the police chief has a proposal to make.
Chief Gant.
Oh, morning, folks. How's everyone doing? Hey, LG, been back to the pool yet? No, I've been drowning enough as it is in my work. Oh, that's a good one. Don't think I can top that.
If you don't mind me asking, Chief, exactly what is this proposal of yours?
Lana, that is to say, the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court.
She wants to do what?
Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble.
What's this all about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request and I'll be finished.
Well then, what's your request?
Your Honor, I'd like you to put immediate end to this trial. Put an immediate end to this trial. Huh? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21st of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. No! Lana! You can't! Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. But Lana! Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you please.
Well, the defendant certainly has the right to self-representation. The request is legally valid, although this is an unprecedented situation. Indeed, it appears there's no further need to continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise.
This can't be happening.
It appears the time for the verdict has arrived. The court finds the defendant...
Objection!
One moment, Your Honor.
Mr. Edgeworth?
The prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty to beyond reasonable doubt. Any ruling at this stage would certainly be premature.
Come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut,
I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant.
What?
Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive little boy you would have me be. With this sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes.
Some kind of deal, Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy.
I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness.
Oh? To whom?
As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Miss Emma Skye. I request the court hears her testimony. Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to continue. I don't care what you think, Miss Skye. The exposure of truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it.
Very well. The court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant? Worthy, you'll live to regret this. Mark my words.
Miss Emma Skye, please take the stand. Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. Now then, witness. Please state your name and occupation. My name is Emma Skye. My occupation, I'm Lana's little sister, and I want to be a scientific investigator. 2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dark of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct? Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time.
Mr. Edgeworth, please remember the trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant?
Yes, most certainly is.
Well, okay then.
He sure gave in fast. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. Okay, need to adjust my seating once again. Okay, there we go. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest.
It's a good thing you weren't harmed.
I passed out. I don't remember much.
That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does this testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder?
That will soon become apparent, Your Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence.
Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination.
I was waiting in my sister's office that day. 2 years ago, the defendant was a detective at the police department, correct? Yes, she was second in command under then Deputy Chief of Police Gant. My sister, she was the best detective ever.
Yes, I remember. Deputy Chief Gant and Miss Skye used to be quite the pair.
I believe they shared the same office. That's right. I'd always sit at my sister's desk and dream about playing that organ. I wanted to play it that day, too. The police department and prosecutor's office held a ceremony that day. Lana promised to take me to dinner after she finished her work. A man came running in and took me hostage. A man? Yes, Joe Dark. He was a serial killer. Joe Dark was brought in for questioning on the day of that ceremony. We were desperate to get anything on him that would lead to an arrest.
When he saw his chance, he fled the room, right?
Upon fleeing the room, Dark proceeded to take the elevator. He must have been in a panic because the elevator was going up. Then he ran into Skye in Gant's office. There was a lot of noise coming from outside, so I opened up the door to have a look. That's when I saw him. Neil Marshall rescued me. What was the prosecutor doing there? That day, there were 2 people present during Dark's questioning. Deputy Chief Damon Gant and Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Almost forgot about Gant. Neil Marshall had just received the King of Prosecutors Award. Young and dedicated, he went straight to the questioning room after the ceremony.
I assume that would also be why he was the first to run after Dark.
When Dark grabbed me, I thought I was good as dead. And that's when Prosecutor Marshall came running in? I don't clearly remember what happened then. But I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. Oh, back up. Can you tell us about that? Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. Just then, the lights went out.
The lights?
It was just about this time of year. There was a terrible storm going on and lightning struck nearby. So the electricity went out?
Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right?
Right, but just then lightning flashed again outside. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind.
I see.
I told the detective about what I saw then. The detective? Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case. Detective Bruce Goodman, the victim. So you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago? Yes, that's what's so scary about this trial. And you told Detective Goodman about what you saw? Yes, but at the time, the words just wouldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture. A picture? Yes, I think she mentioned that before.
Well, Mr. Wright, have you heard enough?
Thank you, Reeve. This picture the witness drew, I believe it has a very important meaning. But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture.
Witness, would you mind if we added this statement to your testimony?
Yes, Your Honor. I drew a picture of that scene once, but it seems to have been lost. You drew a picture of the scene you witnessed, right? Yes, I wanted to do everything I could to help the investigation. I can still see it now, whenever I close my eyes. That's strange. I took over the case after Prosecutor Marshall died, yet I never received any picture. Perhaps the witness is mistaken? But I did draw it, I swear. I'm not just imagining it. This picture that Emma drew, that reminds me. I guess I should check the evidence again. Well, anyway, let's continue. The scene that imprinted an image on your mind. Can you please describe it to us? The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest. Still trying to get all the Korok seeds. Lucky it's Age of Calamity and not with Breath of the Wild, because that's a major pain in being Breath of the Wild. Age of Calamity, it's a little bit more reasonable. Okay, let's present the evidence list. Mr. Edgeworth. This little girl put her heart into drawing that picture. All her heart into drawing that picture, I mean. And yet you would insist on denying its existence. Huh? Hey, I'm not the bad guy. All I'm saying is that as the prosecutor for that case, I was not handed such a picture. That may well be. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold!
This is the evidence list for the SL9 incident?
Please turn it over, Your Honor.
Turn it over. Turn it... Ah! What's this?
Yes, what is that? Hey, that's it! That's the picture I drew!
Indeed, 2 men appear to be wrestling here.
What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list? Me? Only the prosecutor in charge should have access to that list.
Huh? These lists, they're different from each other.
What?
It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These 2 lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here from where they were torn apart from each other.
So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half the evidence in that case ever reached you. What? What?
Order? Order? But, Miss Sky, why did you draw your picture on the back of such an important list?
Because that's what Detective Goodman handed me in the questioning room, Your Honor. Wait a minute. If this list was torn in half, then that means... Your Honor!
Are you alright, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head.
If the evidence list was torn in half, then there might be more of this drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list.
Yes, that's quite conceivable, Mr. Edgeworth.
It's possible. Let's see.
Is something wrong?
Do you even have to ask?
Sorry, Your Honor. There is indeed something drawn on the back of my list. It's that thing! That's that thing! That thing that was dancing in the evidence room! Clearly this act of vandalism is the work of a certain chief of detectives.
I guess he was out of scrap paper.
Very well, witness. Will you please testify about this picture you drew 2 years ago?
Huh? Yes, sir, Your Honor. What's wrong with Emma? She seemed to be thinking about something when she was looking at that picture. Hold on. Let's take a look here. Oh, gosh darn it. Keep forgetting I'm not using a Switch controller. So, it would appear that if we were to flip this and make everything gravitational, that's, I mean, you know, face in the direction of gravity, that this all was taking place in front of that big window, and that something resembling the blue badger was, like, right there. Or the chief of detectives decided to doodle this on evidence. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. The flash of lightning was so bright all I could see were shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. Well, that was a short testimony.
To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image in your mind.
Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw.
Well, I don't see any contradictions here. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder prosecutor Neil Marshall. The defense may now begin its cross-examination.
This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. Did you draw this picture right after the incident? I think I drew it 2 or 3 days later. At first, I was in such a state of shock that I couldn't do anything.
During that time, the investigation team was reorganized. Detective Goodman was placed in charge, under the direction of Damon Gant and Lana Skye.
2 or 3 days later, the memory should still have been fresh in her mind.
Excuse me, witness, but can you please tell us why this picture is painted all black?
The flash of lightning was so bright all I could see were shadows. So at the time you didn't even know it was Mr. Marshall who'd come to your rescue? No, I couldn't see him clearly. The lightning was so bright, and I was knocked to the floor. You were knocked to the floor? Dark had a tight grip on me, but when Mr. Marshall jumped on him, I was knocked away. I turned around, and that's when the lightning flashed. Poor Emma. I'm just glad she wasn't hurt.
What happened after the lightning flashed?
After that, I must have fainted.
Oh, back up. You mean you didn't see the actual murder take place?
No, I'm sorry.
The flash of lightning only drove off the darkness for a split second. Not only that, but the trauma of the situation understandably caused the witness to faint. Do you really need to torture this girl any further?
What? Hey, I'm not the bad guy here. Anyway, this picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant.
Sorry for asking so many times, but are you sure you drew exactly what you saw?
Of course, it's the exact scene.
It wasn't influenced in any way from your talks with the detectives. Are you insinuating we somehow manipulated her memory, Mr. Wright? No, of course not. I better watch out or you might find some way to cut my salary.
I drew this picture before I heard anything from the detectives, so I don't think anyone's story would have influenced me.
Mr. Wright, is there something that's bothering you about this picture?
Huh? Oh, well, that's strange. She claims this is exactly the scene that was imprinted in her mind, and yet there's clearly a contradiction here. Okay, so... let's see here. I mean, I suppose I can present the evidence list. Nope, that's not it. The witness statement is clearly faulty, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, but I can see nothing faulty. Unfortunately, I'll have to penalize you, Mr. Wright.
I must be on the wrong track. Okay, so let's try... No, the blue badger's not even... okay, anyway, let's, Alright, better save here real quick, in case I end up needing to save scum. I shouldn't need to save scum. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant, so what is the problem here? Because this is obviously where the contradiction is. Is it the knife? No. This evidence clearly reveals the contradiction in that statement, Your Honor.
How exactly are the evidence and the statement just now related?
They aren't, are they?
Not at all. Mr. Wright, please think the facts over before making accusations.
I don't think that won me any points with the judge. Alright, let's see here. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that can't be right. Neil was stabbed in the back, not the front. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction.
What? But I still remember it just like it was yesterday.
Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. What part of this picture contradicts the autopsy report?
I think it's this part here.
I don't see what's so strange about that.
That's because the drawing stinks. Mr. Wright, how could you?
The act of making an innocent girl cry should warrant the death penalty. Yes, he means I shouldn't shift the blame to others.
Yes, well, so long as the defense has learned its lesson.
I better take another look at that autopsy report in the picture.
Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. Which part of the picture contradicts the autopsy report?
The blade? The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see its tip is broken.
Even I don't have to look closely to see that, Mr. Wright.
But Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? Its tip is broken too.
If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body.
It was the conclusive piece of evidence that proved Joe Dark was the murderer. I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma.
And where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem?
It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken.
Ah! What's the meaning of this?
Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand.
Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there.
That's right. Well, what does this mean?
The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken.
That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly.
But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency.
Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already? About a little something called falsified evidence.
You're treading on thin ice, Wright.
All I'm saying is that this broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility.
No.
Ah! Order! 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 Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted?
Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors Award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Jamin Gant. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story, there is a lie. I'm not lying. The man really was holding up a broken knife.
If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife.
What are the chances of there being two broken knives?
Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's. Could there have been one?
Oh, there's another one, all right.
If the witness is this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by a simple observational error. Mr. Wright, in that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife.
I assume, then, that you have some information about this other broken knife? If so, please feel free to enlighten us.
The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon.
Oh, boy. I might have to come back here later, guys, and I get the feeling... Oh, the halberd was removed at Gant's behest, giving it its current form. I'll take this, then. If anything's broken here, it's you.
Huh?
I'm sure this must all be very amusing to you, Mr. Wright. But may I remind you that the fate of Miss Lana Skye hangs in the balance.
Okay, yep, loading. We're gonna have to go back a little bit further than I wanted, but... You want to cosplay Emma now? Yeah, it's a good cosplay. Spoiler did that at one point. Alright, so... Now that I've got some more health, I know exactly what to present. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. Let's present the autopsy report. Okay, yada yada, blah 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 blah. We're gonna get back to where we left off. The part of the picture that contains the blatant contradiction is the part of the picture that is somehow the only thing not in shadow. Take that! Okay. Etc., etc. Not so simple. There's a problem.
Murder weapon shouldn't be broken yet. Knife couldn't have been broken beforehand because... Broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. Alright, going over the events again. Ceremony happened. Chief of Prosecutor Awards was given. Dark was questioned, ran away. Went to stab Marshall. Or Marshall went after him and then got stabbed. Okay. Okay, there is another broken knife. Alright, so let's go ahead and save it here. So if worst case scenario happens, we won't have to go so far back. Keep moving. Actually, let's go ahead and save here, because it's a bit closer. Alright. Take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon. Okay. I can't give the trophy, then I'll give the picture of the trophy. The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. Right here inside this picture. This is the picture of the award ceremony. Ah!
What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? It's the broken murder weapon.
Notice the award prosecutor Marshall is holding. That's a broken knife. As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award.
Order! Order! Order!
Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out this knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be! Oh, and why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors award knife was the murder weapon, then the murder and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, this man raising a knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh. Oh!
But the prosecutor was the one who actually died.
That's true. What is going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions. Wait! I remember now. I remember everything.
Witness?
Mr. Edgeworth! What is it? Could you show me your evidence list again, please?
His list? The one with the picture scribbled on the back?
I knew it. This picture, I'm the one who drew it. What? You drew that? That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside me.
Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness's testimony. Would you please tell us what you've recalled, Miss Skye?
Yes, Your Honor. First the knife mix-up, and now the blue badger? This should be interesting. When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed toward both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. Just then, there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger.
He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow.
This is certainly most unusual.
Try impossible. The chief of detectives hadn't even designed him until this year. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago.
Yes, well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination.
Stop, please. Don't pursue this any further. Lana.
What's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair.
But you can't do this. I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that? Chief Prosecutor Sky. We've already come this far. It's too late to turn back.
Silence! The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant.
Seems like we're finally getting to the core of the matter.
When I saw that man raise his knife...
When you say that man, I assume you refer to Joe Dark?
Yes, at least I think it was him.
You think?
All I could really see were his shadows.
The power outage that immediately preceded the incident is also documented in the prosecutor's office reports.
So then you...
I panicked and rushed towards the both of them.
Why would you do something so dangerous?
What else could I have done? He was about to stab Mr. Marshall.
She seems convinced that Dark was the one holding the knife. But as we just theorized, Mr. Marshall was the one holding the knife.
Well, I didn't know that at the time. When that dark guy knocked me down, all I could think was, I've got to help that other person. I think I knocked away the man with the knife.
What do you mean you think?
It all happened so fast, and I was in shock. I don't remember everything clearly. What I did, it's all kind of a blur.
Miss Sky was almost killed before she was witness to a murder about to take place. With so much happening in a matter of seconds, a little disorientation is only natural.
I saw the man about to stab the other person who I thought was Mr. Marshall. I knew I had to stop the man with the knife.
What you did was very brave, young girl. So then what happened next?
Just then, there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger.
Are you sure about this?
Of course, see? I even drew a picture of him here.
But it was the chief of detectives who thought up this hideous beast. And that was just this year. The blue badger didn't exist 2 years ago. This is all quite verifiable.
I know it sounds strange. I was surprised too when I saw him at the police department. I had this nagging feeling that I'd seen him somewhere before. Now I finally remember.
Ah, brother, just when you thought that thing had caused enough commotion.
Tell us, where in the room did you see him dancing?
He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow.
His shadow? So you mean you didn't actually see his face with its winning smile and all?
That's right, but I still remember it. It had 3 creepy horns.
This is pointless. That thing couldn't possibly have existed 2 years ago. The witness must be mistaken. That may well be. But what's important is what caused her to think she saw what she did. Oh? And I suppose you have an explanation. If so, then by all means, please tell us what the shadow really was. What was it Emma saw when that lightning flashed? Who is this blue badger really? I just might know. The blue badger hadn't even been dreamt up when Emma drew this picture. Yet she's certain she saw its shadow. Ladies and gentlemen. It is the defense's belief that on that fateful day 2 years ago, there indeed was something that looked similar to the blue badger. Something that is now sitting in this very room.
Mr. Wright!
In this room? Very well, Mr. Wright. What is it that witness saw in that instant? Please show us some serious blue badger look-alike.
The mysterious blue badger was, in fact, this.
But that's... what exactly is that?
I believe it's some sort of jar. But Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the blue badger. Indeed, it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint?
Our viewpoint?
I've got to show them the correct angle to look at this from. Let's see. Yeah, I think that should do. This isn't right. I've got to make it look more like the badger. Allow me to remind the defense its case hinges on the witness's drawing. If Mr. Wright can't match the shape the witness drew, we cannot accept his claim. I've got to find just the right angle. Maybe I should rotate it vertically a bit more, or horizontally? Come on, Mr. Wright, you can do it! Gotta show them the correct angle to look at this from. Okay. Part of the problem is that the rotation is jacked up. It's like, how do I... Oh, there we go. I can rotate left or right. That helps. Okay, so we need... Yeah, I think that should follow the trail of blood. Well, it could be that, yeah, I might be looking at this at the wrong angle. No, that makes the bottom half too big, so it's got to be the other way around. Okay, so that's clearly where we want it. And I think we want to make sure that there's no holes on the sides, so I think that might be it. This isn't... Ugh! Okay, keep going. Hi, Okay, so keep going. Yeah, it needs to be a little bit... Well, the problem is that it needs to be more angled here. Like, honestly, this is like the best angle I think we're gonna get on it, but the game doesn't seem to think so. Go down a little bit. Does the blood spatter make the face? No, she couldn't see a face. We just need the shape of the blue badger's head. There we go. Well, is this a miracle or what? No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the blue badger. No, it can't be!
Order! Order! Defense has proven its claim. The mysterious blue badger witnessed on the day of the crime was actually this...
Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? So that badger thing was actually just a jar. That doesn't change anything. I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. Indeed? Very well then. Please tell us, what's different now that we know what's different now that we know the witness saw this jar? The murderer. Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. At a very specific angle, I might add, Mr. Wright. Yes, well, knowing this, where could she have seen this jar?
Where?
The location of the jar shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gant. But the body was found lying near Lana Sky's desk. The witness testified so herself. Yes, and it's these two facts that reveal what actually transpired. You see, the struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place in Lana Sky's office. It happened on the other side of the room, in Chief Gant's office. Are you implying that the murderer moved the victim's body from Damon Gant's office to Lana Sky's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason. Exactly. If there wasn't a reason, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble. The only logical conclusion is there was a reason.
Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright?
I finally figured it out. So this is why Lana's tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now tell me, what could have sent the jar flying?
That would have had to have been the impact the man made when he was knocked into the wall.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked in the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on, what would he have hit? Ah!
A suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous-looking sword.
Yes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall, wielding the King of Prosecutors trophy. No, Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking. Yes, there's another possibility of what actually transpired in that room.
Another possibility?
Of course, the perpetrator would have had no idea, but nevertheless, I don't know if I can go through with this.
Mr. Wright, what's the matter?
If events took place, the defense theorizes, and the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming the man Emma Sky knocked away was actually Prosecutor Near Marshall.
You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me? No!
I never imagined her testimony would lead to this.
So it was the witness who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented.
What are you saying?
I'm sorry, Miss Sky, but given the circumstances...
Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How can you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her?
Imagine that coming from you. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding about what Emma did, wasn't it?
I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall?
Evidence?
I'm willing to bet you don't.
Yes, it certainly would be difficult to prove this with evidence.
If we don't have evidence, then we'll have to rely on testimony.
I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead.
We certainly can't get dead people to testify. Well, at least not while Maya's away, but, you know. This has all been a wild goose chase from the beginning. Touché, Miss Sky. Of course, that only leaves us with one possibility. You mean there's still another possibility?
What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth?
I mean the possibility that the victim has left us a message. For better or for worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left behind the name of the person who took his life, in one manner or another.
That's impossible.
Well, Mr. Wright, this is the only possibility left to you. A message from the deceased. Does such a message exist?
I've got to think back to the court record. The real murderer's name that the victim may have left behind. This message from the deceased is already in our possession.
Mr. Wright, will you stop at nothing to prove my sister a murderer?
Do not be mistaken, Miss Sky. Our purpose is not to accuse Emma of any crime. There is only one thing we seek: the truth. No matter how painful it may be.
Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys a message from the deceased.
This is the message left by the deceased.
This is that blue badger from before, right?
Oh, is he going to speak the killer's name?
If that thing could, I'm sure it would.
Looks like everyone's forgotten this is just a jar.
A message was left here, on the surface of this jar.
What do you mean?
If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on this jar. It looks like someone wiped the blood away. Yes, but notice, for some reason, the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away.
Yes, there is a line here, drawn in blood.
So what you're saying is these dots were once lines. Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious moments left to him to leave behind a message. One that someone apparently wiped away. but blood must have seeped into the jar where the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect these points, and the victim's message will become apparent. No.
Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave for us?
Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal to us the answer. I've got to connect these dots to make letters. There's only one thing the victim would have written given the circumstances. His murderer's name. It's a defense attorney's duty to prove their client's innocence. That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. Emma. So this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind.
Of all people. She may not have meant it, but in the end, she's the one who took the victim's life.
Was Emma Skye.
See, Worthy, can't say I didn't warn you.
Chief Gant.
Do you understand the implications of what you've done?
What? What are you talking about?
2 years ago, Joe Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the prosecutor in this case, were you not? Ah, yes, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction.
But Joe Dark really was a serial murderer. That is undeniable.
I'm afraid that's not important. Didn't you know we aren't defenders of justice?
What?
We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter. Even if there wasn't any cover-up of evidence forgery, ultimately the responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. Despite what anyone may say, this fact cannot be denied.
What's going on at the prosecutor's office? They might have sent an innocent man to his death. How can he just stand there like it wasn't his fault?
Order! Order! Order!
Crowd is louder than usual. The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows. Alright, we're going to keep pushing through here. Because, by golly, I'm going to finish this case tonight if I can all help it. Okay, good. We've only got one half left. So, one half of the trial left. Sorry, Edgeworth. I didn't mean to get you in trouble. Don't worry about it. This is my problem, not yours.
Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later.
Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it?
You got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top it off, you call me here. I've seen happier people at funerals.
I take it Lana's having you run errands again?
Let me tell you, this is the last time, pal. Here, she asked me to give you this to you if there was a break in today's trial.
Evidence law? Edgeworth was talking about this just the other day. You must know the 2 rules of evidence law. Rule number 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department.
Is that right, Mr. Wright?
It seems so. You could at least study some evidence law, really.
The chief prosecutor also wanted me to give you a message.
A message?
She said if you're planning to take him on, you're gonna need this book.
Him? I guess I'll need to give this book a thorough read.
Doesn't look like that book will do you any good now, though. All that left now is the chief prosecutor's sentence.
That's where you're wrong, Detective.
Huh?
Haven't you figured it out yet? Why I'm still sitting in that prosecutor's seat, despite all these allegations being thrown at me?
Mr. Edgeworth.
The real trial today hasn't begun yet.
What? What else is there left to do? Your credibility's been all but ruined with this forged evidence you were unaware of. Emma Skye found out she unwittingly caused a man's death. And now you're telling me you want to do more? You gotta be kidding me, pal.
You're missing the point, Detective. Lana didn't murder Detective Goodman. She merely stuck a knife into his dead body. That means the real killer is still out there.
What?
And we're gonna expose him, no matter what it takes. This case has hurt too many people. It's time to bring it to an end.
Court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. Mr. Edgeworth?
Yes, Your Honor?
The inquiry committee is planning to impose harsh penalties for your actions.
Thank you for the news, Your Honor.
Yes, well, normally this is where the prosecution calls forth a witness, but, this isn't easy to say. You see, there's some concern that you, Mr. Edgeworth, may have,
Struck a bargain. You think I may have manipulated the witnesses?
I didn't say that. It's just, you see, everyone has been talking, and,
Very well, Your Honor. I have a solution.
A solution?
That being the case, the prosecution will allow the defense to call forth all further witnesses.
What? But there's no precedent for what you're proposing.
Undeniably, this is an unusual arrangement, but a very effective one. It would prove that I haven't struck any deals with the witnesses.
Well, Mr. Wright, what do you say?
Unbelievable. Edgeworth has found a way to continue the trial. Very well, the defense accepts the prosecution's proposal. Gotta hydrate here.
Then it's settled. The defense may now call forth the next witness.
Mr. Wright, you do realize this is your last chance. If you call the wrong witness, this trial is as good as over. The defense calls. Time's finally come to bring out the real murderer. Damon Gant. The defense calls Damon Gant to the stand.
Damon Gant? What does he have to do with anything?
As the defendant's partner 2 years ago, Mr. Gant has first-hand knowledge of the crime. I feel we should hear what he has to say about it. As luck would have it, he should still be in the courthouse. He would also be the least likely to have been manipulated by me in any way. Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor?
True. All right, bailiff, please escort Mr. Gant to the stand.
Witness, please state your name and occupation.
What is this, some kind of practical joke? I was just on my way to lunch.
Your name and occupation, sir.
Worthy, are you sure you want to do this?
Your name and occupation.
So, you want to play hardball, eh?
Okay, one moment here. I'm going to take a look at that evidence law that Lana sent me. Rule number 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Rule 2, unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. Okay.
Please, Mr. Gant. Fine. My name is Taman Gant. I'm the acting chief of police.
Now then, Chief Gant, the court requests to hear your testimony.
All right, what's with the grim face?
First, let's clear up this SL9 incident.
Oh, you mean that time when Lana's sister murdered that prosecutor? Personally, I think it's been made clear already.
There are still some things unaccounted for.
Oh, like what?
Like the role you played in all of this.
Son, either you're very brave or very foolish. You are aware, of course, that a police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal.
Weapons?
Sure. Take my testimony, for example. I don't have to give it if I don't want to.
What? Is that true?
I'm afraid so. The chief of police has the right to refuse to testify.
Of course, such an action carries with it certain risks.
Don't worry, I'm not here to hinder your trial. Just remember, if this turns out to be a big waste of time, don't say I didn't warn you. Very well, the witness may now begin his testimony. As I recall, Neil and I were questioning him that day. To make a long story short, we slipped up. That power outage didn't help either. When I went to my office, I found Lana there. Apparently, she had already arranged the crime scene. As you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. Is that when Dark was arrested? Him? He was lying on the floor unconscious. When Emma sent Neil flying, it seems Dark bumped his head.
Oh, 1 second. I gotta look up a little something more here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, it's nothing we don't already know.
I see. Everything seems pretty clear-cut.
If the police chief has the right to refuse to testify, then I'd better hit him hard and fast.
As I recall, Neil and I were questioning him that day.
As I recall, a ceremony was held at the police department that day.
Yes, that's right. I guess you could say I'm a workaholic. After winning his award, Neil was all fired up too. That's probably what spooked Doc and made him run away like that.
Was the defendant Lana Skye also present in the room?
I don't quite remember. At the very least, she wasn't there when Doc ran for it. To make a long story short, we slipped up. The power outage didn't help either.
So the two of you ran immediately after him, right?
Well, that's right, but Doc made it to the elevator first. So Neil and I split up. He went upstairs and I went downstairs. I guess you could say he got lucky.
What's this about a power outage?
Oh, that! The elevator stopped all of a sudden and I got the shock of my life. Well, probably not as shocked as Neil was when that knife went into his heart, though.
That's not funny.
When I went to my office, I found Lana there.
Could you tell us what you saw?
It was a shocking sight. Neil and that serial killer were lying in a heap on the floor, all tangled together. Dog was also lying collapsed on the floor. Yes, apparently he hit his head and was knocked out. Next to them were those two poor girls.
Lana and Emma.
Lana was cradling Emma in her arms. Looking back at it now, she must have already known what her sister had done. Apparently she'd already arranged the crime scene.
How can you know that?
Because of the victim's body. It had already been moved.
So that means you found the body near Lana's desk.
That's right. I think you said it earlier. It was my suit of armor that really stabbed the prosecutor.
Yes.
Anyway, as you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery.
So you're saying that the forgery had already taken place by the time you arrived at your office?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I can understand how Lana must have felt. Removing a body and hiding evidence are inexcusable no matter what their circumstances.
Is that how it really went down? Staring at the witness won't do you any good, Mr. Wright. If you're going to stare at anything, you'd be better off staring at the court record.
Worthy. Always a smooth talker.
Which piece of evidence ties Gant to the forgery? Lana did admit to forging evidence, but that can't be the whole truth. Somehow I've got to link Gant to the incident. Okay. Also, there's another reason why you don't want to stare at the witness. If you get in a staring contest with him, he'll win. Yeesh. Exactly, Headfan, exactly. You're quite good at this. You claim you had nothing to do with the forgery. But I'm afraid that is a claim you cannot back up.
Explain yourself.
Several pieces of evidence were found in your office. Take this jar, for example.
That's the blue badger you showed us earlier.
A piece of this jar was discovered in your safe. Not only that, but the evidence list I presented earlier was actually found inside your desk.
It was found where?
You see, Chief Gant, these articles of evidence uncovered in your office are both concrete proof that you also played a part in the illegal investigation.
Chief Gant, what's the meaning of this? Oh, here's a defense attorney who may even rival Worthy.
So you admit to it then, that you were involved in the forgery.
Who, me? Or do you mean you?
Me? Why would I have anything to do with that?
Well, you were the one who snuck into my office when you found this evidence. Prosecutors aren't the only ones capable of forging evidence, you know.
Well, why were Emma's fingerprints on the cloth? Presumably because Emma pushed him. Why was her name on the vase? If Marshall liked her, or at least thought he liked her. Well, I think the presumption is that he thought she was the one who pushed him. Of course, I mean, now if it were me and I knew it was an accident, which, you know, I'm pretty sure that I would have guessed it was an accident, I would have written literally anything but Emma.
Defense attorneys can do so also. Isn't that right, Righto?
However, Detective Gumshoe was present during the investigation.
Worthy, my boy. Not even detectives are exempt from the law. Rest assured Dick will receive his due punishment.
What? If Detective Gumshoe's salary drops any further, he'll end up paying to work.
Yes, well, in light of the detective's presence, please give us your testimony regarding these pieces of evidence found in your office, and the relation to the forgery that took place at the crime scene. My. Kids these days no longer know how to put two and two together.
What if Emma's being framed for something she didn't do? Someone could have put her fingerprints on the cloth while she was out cold. Could be. She clearly seems to remember pushing Neil, though. So...
Let's see, what was it now? A jar fragment and a list? For all I know, you could have planted them in my office. Anyway, you can't prove when those pieces of evidence were discovered. If they were found after Doc was convicted, then they're worthless. There's no reason I'd participate in a forgery. Rearranging the crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way. Mr. Wright?
Yes, Your Honor? Didn't she pass out afterwards? I also watch way too much murder mysteries. Ah, that would explain it. Yeah. That helps with an analytical mind.
In investigating the crime scene, you should have been more careful to observe protocol. You do understand that I'm a chief of police, right? I'm chief of police, right? There will be consequences.
Oh...
Indeed, I believe I will press charges, so you won't make the same mistake again. At my apologies, Chief. Would you mind waiting until tomorrow for that? Today's, well, you know. All right, Haji. In return, though. I know, that place, right?
What are these guys, telepathic?
For all I know, you could have planted them in my office.
I'd appreciate it if you'd stop making these ridiculous allegations.
Yes, you do have a point. You wouldn't have the guts to do something like that.
What? I'll have you know, back in the day, I once broke into a cattle ranch and tipped...
Mr. Wright, what are you saying? Anyway, you can't prove you didn't carry in the evidence, can you? You have proof to the contrary. You're going to need it later.
Later? What are you talking about?
What else? I'm talking about when Raito's prints are found. Yes, if they're found inside my safe, they would prove his investigation was illegal.
I've never faced anyone as slimy as this guy.
Anyway, you can't prove when those pieces of evidence were discovered.
What do you mean by that?
This is all purely hypothetical, of course, but suppose I did place those items in my safe. Such an act wouldn't necessarily constitute forgery.
If concealing evidence found at a crime scene isn't forgery...
I'm not through speaking yet, Raito. It all depends on when the evidence was discovered. If they were found after Doc was convicted, then they're worthless.
Are you saying this jar fragment wasn't discovered in the initial investigation?
It would appear not. After all, it wasn't listed in the evidence list. For all we know, it could have suddenly materialized the day after Doc was sentenced.
Oh, and wouldn't that be convenient? Right? The Chief is talking about a possibility, so long as you can't rule that out. Your remarks, however clever they may be, will only succeed in wasting time. Tell me something I don't know.
Come now, Raito. Think about it. There's no reason I'd participate in a forgery.
How can you look me in the eye and say that?
Because I'm innocent. Remember? Who was it that murdered Neil? I'm not sure I care for the word murder here. But in the end, the person responsible for Mr. Marshall's unfortunate demise was Emma Skye. Well, now do you see? Rearranging the crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way.
Really, Chief Gant? At the very least, there is one very large benefit you reap from all this.
Oh? I wasn't aware. What is this benefit?
That would, of course, be the position you have. Chief of Police.
Oh,
The resolution of the SL9 incident secured your promotion to chief. That, in itself, is sufficient motive.
oh, that's a good one.
Huh?
Do you really think I'm that incompetent?
What do you mean?
Even without that case, I was already in line to become the next chief. The resolution of SL9 really sped up the inevitable a little.
Is that true, Edgeworth? Yes, he was going to be made chief anyway.
Ha! Be careful when pointing that finger, or you might wind up being the one pointed at.
So that means there's only one possible motivation for you to commit forgery. If you didn't do it for yourself, then you did it for someone else.
Don't be silly, Worthy. You know me better than that. There are only three people I look out for. Me, myself, and I. There, it's out in the open now. Archie, would you mind if I change my testimony a little? By all means, please do. I wouldn't be anyone's accomplice if there was nothing in it for me.
Nothing in it for you?
Sorry, but the only person I care about is yours truly. That girl, Lana's little sister, was it? If you think I felt sorry for her, you'd better think again.
You're right. You don't feel sorry for anyone.
Be tough on crime and tough on people. That's how I was raised.
You seem to be lax enough on yourself, though.
Oh, that's a good one, Worthy.
Could there have been something in it for him? Given his selfishness, would he have helped someone out? I can't think of how it would help him. That means he wouldn't have helped out anyone. Relax and take a deep breath, Mr. Wright. Try to think outside the box. After all, that's what you're good at, isn't it? Think outside the box? I never thought I'd hear him tell me that. The question isn't who would the chief help. It's who would ask the chief for help. If someone did that, he'd be sure to find a way to benefit from that person.
It appears the defense has nothing more to say. Chief, would you please repeat your testimony from the beginning?
Alright. Okay, so we're going to press this again. We're going to skip ahead to the part where he says... what is it? Where he asked me to point out an accomplice. True, you might not help out anyone for their sake. But if it would benefit you, you might decide to assist someone.
Mr. Wright, it appears you've positively determined to portray the chief as a nice man who likes to lend people a hand.
That's not what I mean, huh?
Very well, then. Who is this person you believe Chief Gant may have helped to forge evidence?
Take that!
Chief Prosecutor Lana Sky? The defendant?
I believe it's quite obvious in light of the circumstances. Emma Skye fell victim to an unfortunate series of events. I need to reword that a little bit more lemony. Work. Who would want to help her more than her own sister, Lana? Alright, good night, Wild Talon. If you want to catch the replay, it should be up on my channel, or I'll be uploading it to YouTube shortly afterwards. So, thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. And as for Chief Gant, he would also have a reason to help Lana if she asked him to. That reason, of course, is self-profit. Wow. Nice.
Self-profit? What do you mean?
After the SL9 incident was resolved, Lana Skye was appointed chief prosecutor at the prosecutor's office. The person who arranged this job change was you, Chief Gant.
But how would he profit from all this?
He'd be able to use the chief prosecutor as his puppet. Essentially, he would acquire unchecked authority over all the investigations.
Do you mean to tell me that despite the chief's formidable appearance, he plays with puppets? Oh, wait. You must mean puppet as in someone forced to do his bidding. Never mind.
Admit it, Chief. You assisted Lana Skye in forging evidence. Your motive to appoint her as chief prosecutor so you could control her. Oh, you have no idea. He gets so much more dense after this game. He's kind of comic relief in the future games.
Righto, my boy, you have quite an imagination. Let me ask you something.
What?
Do you have any proof of this? That I controlled Lana? For example, is Lana testifying that I've done such a thing?
Lana. She's keeping quiet to protect Emma. There's no way she'd testify against Gant.
I'm afraid without any proof, this all amounts to nothing more than mere conjecture.
Unless that is also what happened in this incident. I mean, that's also what happened in this incident.
This incident? Which one would that be?
Of course, I'm talking about the murder of Detective Bruce Goodman. The chief prosecutor's been acting strange throughout this entire trial. Almost as if someone has been controlling her.
Worthy, you'd better watch your tongue. I wouldn't want you to get hurt. Just what do you mean?
What he means, Your Honor, is that Chief Gant is involved in the murder of Detective Goodman. Not only that, but the Chief is now making Lana take the rap to cover up his involvement.
What? Order, I said order! Mr. Wright, you can't be serious.
Huh?
This is an affront to the highest-ranking officer in our law enforcement agency.
Oh, I appreciate the chat, Ed Fan. I like chatting with the audience. Gives me a chance to slip into my normal voice and rest it for a bit.
To accuse the chief of police of blackmail and murder? That's impossible.
Your Honor, I was merely reiterating what Mr. Edgeworth said in an easier-to-understand language. It's too late, Mr. Wright. There's no turning back for us now. Looks like he's the one who just decided to go through with this.
Can you prove this, Mr. Wright? That the chief, a high-ranking officer of the law, is involved in this murder?
Good question. Regardless of his rank or title, Chief Gant is just a man. The question is he a criminal? I believe the evidence will tell.
I see. All right, then. Let's see what Mr. Wright's got, and it better be good. Show us his evidence that ties Chief Gant to the murder of Detective Goodman.
Aha, here we go.
This is the ID card list.
Yes, the one that shows who entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. There was one ID on this list we couldn't determine the owner of yesterday. 7777777.
I'm sorry, but there's no way you can prove that's my card number.
It's your number.
What? How do you know that?
The safe in Chief Gant's office requires a code to open. A 7-digit code.
7 digits? You don't mean...
I'm afraid so, Your Honor. The code was 7777777. The same as the remaining ID card number on that list. Chief Gant, you entered the evidence room on the day of the crime!
Order! Order! Chief Gant, what do you have to say? Nothing. The defense search of my office was in violation of regulations.
And I will demand Mr. Wright be punished to the maximum extent of the law. But right now, this court demands an explanation from you about the use of this ID card.
Chief Gant, so you admit it? You entered the evidence room on the day of the crime? What about it? I'm chief of police. Whether it's the evidence room or the bathroom, what's the difference? I can go anywhere I want.
Tell me, when you entered the room, were you alone?
I always go to the bathroom alone, as I do with the evidence room.
Detective Goodman wouldn't have happened to be with you that day, would he?
Of course not. Why would that be? I hadn't seen him in days.
You hadn't seen him in days? Chief Gant, I'm afraid you've just undone yourself. On that day, you had to have met with Detective Goodman.
What do you mean? This trial's purpose is to determine Lana Sky's guilt.
No, it isn't, Your Honor. This trial's purpose is to determine the truth. If Chief Gant met the victim on the day of the crime, then we need to determine one thing. What transpired during that meeting?
In that case, Mr. Wright, I'm going to have to ask you for evidence. Shows proof that the victim went to meet Chief Gant on the day of the crime.
I believe that would be the missing item report because that can only be submitted to one Chief Gant. Detective Goodman lost his ID card on the day of the crime. Or to be more accurate, Jake Marshall stole it. So Detective Goodman filled out a lost item report. He would have had to give that report to the Chief of Police.
And you are in possession of the report, which means you can't be sure if he filed it.
He filed it. How do I know, you ask? Because he needed to enter the evidence room that day.
He needed to?
Yes, to transfer the evidence out.
Oh.
Detective Goodman took the form to you, Chief Gant. Then, you accompanied the detective to the evidence room.
I accompanied him?
There's no other way the murderer and Detective Goodman could have entered the room.
Hold on, let me guess what you're going to say next. I, the Chief of Police, murdered poor Goodman?
Exactly.
But wait! The Chief didn't necessarily need to accompany him to the evidence room. He could have just lent him his ID card. Yes. Now that you mention it, I believe I might have done that sort of thing.
Sorry, but that's not possible. According to the record, your card was only used once. Yet you showed us your ID card earlier. If you had really lent it to Detective Goodman, it would have been found on his body.
No! Chief Gant, you didn't.
The murder was most likely a spur-of-the-moment crime, for no one in their right mind would choose the police department as a place to commit murder. After the murder, you contacted Lana at the prosecutor's office. Why? To dispose of Detective Goodman's body, of course. You're forgetting, Mr. Wright, that the victim's body was discovered in the prosecutor's office parking lot. How did he manage to move it there?
I was at the police department the entire day, you know.
And everyone's aware that Lana stayed at the prosecutor's office after the ceremony. Everyone except me, it seems. Still, you're the chief of police. You have an entire police force at your disposal.
Oh, so you think I just ordered an officer to do it? Hey, you, take this here dead body over to the prosecutor's office. I don't think so.
Chief Gant, you left all the evidence we need to prove how you moved the body to the prosecutor's office. And all this time I thought it was just a useless clue just taking up space.
How could the chief have moved the body? Mr. Wright, show us this evidence.
To move the victim's body, Chief Gant used this. Okay, we're... where is it? Ah, the screwdriver. Edgeworth brought it back to his office on Gant's request. This is how he moved Detective Goodman's body.
What's that? A screwdriver? What does that have to do with this case?
Mr. Edgeworth, think back to the day of the crime. What is this screwdriver doing here? It's here because... Ah! I was asked to go, by Chief Gant, no less. He told me he wanted me to keep it here in the prosecutor's office. In any case, on the day of the stabbings, I brought this back here. After the ceremony ended that day, I didn't plan to return to the prosecutor's office. But you did, because Chief Gant asked you to. You mean The body was found in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. I think it's obvious what happened. The body was moved by that car.
Detective Goodman's body was carried in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car?
Yes. Unless, of course, you have another explanation, Chief. Why else would you have asked Mr. Edgeworth to transfer evidence from a closed case? There's only one plausible explanation. To transport the body to your accomplice, Miss Lana Skye.
Order! 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 What's going on here? Is there no room for rebuttal to the defense's outrageous accusations?
Think back to the photograph Miss Starr took at the prosecutor's office. This was not a photo of the body being stuffed into the trunk to be taken away. It was exactly the opposite. It is a photo of the body being taken from the trunk.
Chief Gant, please say something. I believe... Your time's up. My time's up? Sorry, Writer, but I'm having lunch with the District Attorney General right after this. We have to get going if we're going to make it in time for the early bird special.
But the cross-examination isn't finished yet.
Remember what I told you earlier? The police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal.
Weapons?
Like the right to refuse to testify. I'm invoking that right now. What? That's not a right to be casually invoked. There are certain risks to be considered.
So you're going to just run away after all this?
Run away? Don't make me laugh, Worthy. I stabbed old Goodman, that's what you're saying, right? But if you had any conclusive evidence, you would have presented it by now.
Well,
You think I had Lana dispose of the body? If so, then show your proof and get it over with. I'll say it again, Mr. Wright. Damon Gant is the current chief of police. This court will not tolerate any accusations against him without concrete proof. Well, Mr. Wright?
Your Honor?
Do you have any concrete proof? Proof that Chief Gant murdered Detective Goodman and made Miss Skye dispose of his body?
Do I have any concrete proof? It's no use showing evidence I'm not even sure of myself. No, Your Honor. At present, I have no conclusive evidence.
Siaji? In that case, this court is forced to penalize you for your allegations against the chief.
What?
Here's a tip, never gamble what you can't afford to lose, righto. It seems that Lady Luck was on my side again today. Okay, Aji, I'll leave the rest to you. I warned you earlier, Mr. Wright. This is an affront to a senior officer in our nation's law enforcement agency.
What? Lady Luck? Maybe we should have a word with her.
Mr. Edgeworth, what do you mean?
There's one lady who knows the real truth behind this trial. We haven't yet had the honor of hearing her testimony. A lady who knows the truth. Another witness. In the absence of conclusive evidence, the only other method of proof is testimony. But Chief Gant has invoked his right to refuse to testify. There's still someone else, one more witness who can answer all the questions raised in this trial. Someone right in this very room.
Mr. Edgeworth, who's this person?
Why are you asking me, Your Honor? Have you forgotten? The defense is the one calling the witnesses today.
Mr. Wright, does such a witness exist?
She may not be willing to tell the truth, but we can't just stop now. Yes, Your Honor, the defense calls forth...
The defendant? Miss Lana Skye?
She was in the underground parking lot at 5:15 on February 21st. Her task? To dispose of the victim's body. In accordance with a certain someone's orders.
Mr. Edgeworth?
The prosecution has no objections, Your Honor.
Very well. The court will now take its final recess for the day. In 15 minutes, we will reconvene to hear the defendant's testimony. This court is now in
Hold on.
Huh? Hold on. Chief Gad, I thought you were just going to eat. Listen good, Lana.
He's talking to Lana.
I don't think you need to tell me to tell you this, but if you accept Mr. Wright... I don't think you need me to tell you this, but if you accept Mr. Wright's claims, there will be terrible consequences. That's right. Your sister will be found guilty for Neil Marshall's murder.
This isn't good.
Of course, you never support such outrageous claims anyway, right? Just something to think about. All right, then. I've got a lunch date to meet. Okay, if there aren't any further objections, this court is now in recess.
Looks like we managed to stay in the game. Yeah, thanks to your help, Edgeworth.
That chief. He's something else, eh, pals?
Detective Gumshoe.
I'm not a detective anymore.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, don't worry. I've already decided where to work now. At your office.
My office?
Sure. I'll take the place of that top-knotted girl you used to work with.
What do you mean? Maya?
Still, looks like we're all out of moves now. Chief Gant's done it again. How's he always gets the upper hand?
It's not fair he has the right to refuse to testify. Settle down, Wright. Remember what the judge said?
But Chief, that is not a right to be casually invoked. There are certain risks to be considered.
Risks? What did he mean by that? It's simple. If the chief refuses to testify, the opposite also holds true. You mean he forfeits his right to say anything too? Oh, you mean he forfeits his right to say anything too? Emma, are you okay? Yeah, when I came to, I was in the medical office. I've been listening to the trial from the gallery. So she heard everything that's been going on. Emma, I'm sorry for what I said before. No, don't be. It was the truth. You know, it's funny. I almost feel somehow relieved. Relieved? Yeah, now I finally know what really happened. To think that all this time, my sister was being blackmailed by that terrible man. And she did it all just to protect me. Ever since her appointment as chief prosecutor, everyone who knew her said she'd changed. Perhaps it was easier that way for her.
What do you mean?
What do you think I mean? To follow Chief Gant's orders. She must have shut herself up deep inside. To force herself to do anything and everything the chief told her to do. That must be why she became so cold. It was all my fault. It's all because I murdered Mr. Marshall.
Hey, don't go blaming yourself now. If you want to blame anyone, blame society, pal.
Chief Gant may be able to fool everyone else with his forgery, but he can't fool my memory. I remember now. I knocked Mr. Marshall into that armor. I see.
Well, we better get back. It's time for the final act.
Emma, why don't you wait here? No, I'm going with you. I want to be there when Lana tells the truth.
Let's go, Wright. It's time to end this.
Yep, we're keeping going. I am going to finish this. I am determined.
Now then, will the defendant, Miss Lana Skye, please take the stand?
Miss Lana Skye, you were the chief prosecutor. I'm sure you are aware of what is required of you.
But Mr. Edgeworth, you already know everything. You know all that I've done these past 2 years.
Please provide the court with your testimony, Miss Skye. And remember, you are under oath. We want to hear the truth.
Of course, the truth. Lana, no matter what happens, I'll always be your sister.
Now then, your testimony, if you will. First, tell us about your relationship with Chief Gant.
Everything hinges on your testimony. You're the only chance we had to get Gant. I worked alongside Gant for years. There's no truth to this blackmail theory. I fabricated the evidence 2 years ago all by myself. When I found Prosecutor Marshall's body, I rearranged the crime scene. My only motivation was to get Dart convicted. It had nothing to do with Emma.
Are you sure about this testimony?
Your Honor, I'm confessing to a capital offense. Of course I'm sure. But Lana...
If this is true, then that means Chief Gant has nothing to do with this.
That's what I've been telling you from the beginning. Please, Mr. Wright, you've got to help her. She's sacrificing herself because of me. But what if she's telling the truth? She's not. I know my own sister. Whenever she speaks stiffly like that, she's hiding something inside. Deep down, she's really screaming in agony. Yeah, this is no time to start second-guessing myself.
The defense may now begin its cross-examination.
I worked alongside Gant for years. How many years exactly? Ever since I made senior detective. Let's see, I was 24 then, so that would be 5 years.
Detective Gant and Detective Skye were legendary partners. I personally saw them testify in numerous cases.
She must have been good coming from the same school as Mia. Damon Gant was a respectable detective, that's why. There's no truth to this blackmail theory. But think about it, Miss Skye. You didn't murder Detective Goodman. You told me as much yesterday in jail. You still don't get it, do you, Mr. Wright? Any testimony you cannot present in court is as useless as idle gossip. I stabbed Detective Goodman with a knife. And I fabricated the evidence 2 years ago all by myself. Did you do so to help your sister? Joe Dark was a serial killer. My sister almost became his last victim that day. I didn't want that incident to ruin her life. But what she did was justifiable self-defense. She wouldn't have been charged with anything. That's not the point. She was traumatized that day, all because of that creep. That's why I couldn't forgive him. Lana.
So that's why you fabricated the evidence 2 years ago.
When I found Prosecutor Marshall's body, I rearranged the crime scene. You say you did this all by yourself? Yes.
Would you mind telling us what you found when you arrived at the crime scene?
It seems I was the first person to discover the scene. The broken prosecutor award knife was stuck in the victim's body.
What?
The Prosecutor Marshall
died from an unfortunate accident. That's only a situation you dreamed was possible. The reality is, it wasn't my sister who took the prosecutor's life. Fantasize all you want, Mr. Wright, but I'll never change this statement. You mean Prosecutor Marshall wound up being killed by Dark? Something like that. If that is so, then what happened to the other murder weapon? Dark was carrying a switchblade knife. Oh, that was lying on the floor a little distance away. It was probably knocked away in the struggle. That's not how it went down. She's trying to cover up her lies with more lies. All just to protect me.
So when you found the scene like this, what did you do? After all, this is what everything boils down to.
Yes. I broke off the tip of Dark's knife, planted it inside the wound, then moved the body. You planted the tip of Dark's knife in the victim's wound?
And then you moved the body? But why? Why would you do that?
You, of all people, should know, Edgeworth. You've always had a good head on your shoulders. My head isn't that bad, but maybe I ought to ask for the sake for the others. When you showed up on the scene, where exactly was the victim's body? It was where you deduced it was, by Chief Gant's desk. But the body was found by your desk. Why did you move it there? The reason for that is simple.
Let's have the witness explain this in more detail. The reason Miss Sky moved the body.
The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan. Pieces of the jar? You mean... Yes, that wretched jar you showed us earlier. In order to show that Dark committed the crime, I felt it would be more expedient to move the body. So, when you first found the body, the jar was already... Of course, it had been shattered to pieces. If you looked at the crime scene, it would be clear right away what happened. Neil Marshall was dead, and Dark was lying unconscious. In other words, the jar must have been broken during their struggle.
I see.
What's the matter, Emma? Apparently the jar shattered at the time the crime was committed. But I have a feeling there's more to it than that. There must be a contradiction here somewhere. Anyway, I committed this fabrication completely alone. Okay, let's see. That's gotta be the contradiction is the jar. Let me double check. Yep. Miss Sky, I understand how you feel. You committed that crime 2 years ago to protect your sister.
You mean the forgery at the scene where Neil Marshall was murdered?
If that truth were to be exposed now, the past 2 years of your life will have been in vain. Even so, I'm compelled to bring to everyone's attention a significant contradiction with your testimony. A contradiction in my testimony? You testified, and I quote, "The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan." That's right.
Do you have a problem with that?
It's a simple oversight, really. You see, a message was written on this jar with the victim's blood. Yes, the prosecutor must have written in it in his final moments. Exactly so. And this is where the contradiction lies. In order for the victim to be able to write his message on the jar, it must not yet have been broken before he died. He couldn't have written Emma's name on a shattered jar.
Order! Order!
Your Honor, it would appear more information is needed in regard to this jar and its bloody message. We may be missing something critical here. Something critical? Chief Prosecutor, it seems you're as in the dark as we are about the truth towards which we're headed. What? Just tell us exactly what you saw. We'll piece together the information to arrive at the truth.
Very well. The witness may now continue her testimony.
I immediately noticed the blood traces on the jar, but it was dark in the room and I didn't have time to check it out. To be safe, I wiped away the blood. The fragments were large, so I'm sure I got them all.
All I could think about was wiping them clean before they were discovered.
You mean you were the one who wiped away the message in blood?
I wasn't chief prosecutor at the time. She didn't think Dark was the real murderer. That's why she tried to erase the real evidence.
Very well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination.
Yeah, there's just one problem with that. Okay, to be safe to wipe away the blood, the fragments were large, so I'm sure I got them all. But how could you see with the power out? It should have been pitch black in that office. A detective is always prepared, Mr. Wright. Even now, I always carry a pocket light and a camera with me. Even I carry a bottle of emergency luminol wherever I go. I never miss anything. I got every last piece. Okay. See, there's a little bit of a problem with that. Miss Sky, I believe this jar conceals a truth even you were unaware of. What? We found the final piece of this jar in Chief Gant's safe. In the chief's safe? But how? I knew it. She really didn't know. Something even more disturbing about that final piece. There was still blood on it.
But the witness just testified that she gathered every last piece and wiped the blood off of them.
Yes, which leaves us with only one explanation. On the night Prosecutor Marshall was murdered, you were not the first one to show up on the scene. Chief Gant got there before you!
But couldn't the defendant have simply missed a piece?
I'm afraid that's unlikely. The pieces are too big for anyone to miss, let alone an ace detective.
That may well be, but everyone makes mistakes. Even I once wasted an entire day looking for my dentures. They were in my mouth all along. Can you believe that?
Have you forgotten, Your Honor? When this witness arrived at the scene, the jar was already broken.
Oh, that.
There's no way a name could have been written on a shattered jar. Another person discovered the scene prior to the witness.
I hope you're not implying this person was Chief Gant. At the time, he was looking for Dark downstairs. Besides, why would he be there?
The question is, if he did arrive there first, why did he hide that fact for 2 years? Well, Your Honor, can you answer us that?
Ah! No! Wait. I'm not the one on trial here.
Damon Gant arrived at the crime scene prior to the witness. He proceeded to break the jar and purposefully hid one of the broken pieces. Question: what is this action called? Fabrication of evidence.
But why would Chief Gant do that?
In light of what happened afterwards, isn't it clear?
What happened afterwards?
Discovering the scene, Lana Skye believed her sister Emma killed the victim. Determined to help her sister, she sought Gant's aid. Lending her his aid, Gant helped her create evidence that incriminated Dark, sparing Emma. And therein lies the reason. The reason why Miss Skye became the chief's puppet. No, I did it on my own. Please, sis, stop trying to protect the chief. I can't watch you suffer anymore for my sake. No, you didn't. It wasn't you, Emma. You didn't kill anyone. Don't believe anything Mr. Wright says. Defense attorneys make up the most foul lies to defend their clients. Foul lies? Imagine that, coming from my own client.
I guess you do seem to the type who likes to twist the truth.
Wait a minute. What if... we're still smack dab in the middle of Gant's trap?
Is something wrong, Mr. Wright?
Lana may be right after all. What do you mean, right? So you do tell foul lies then, Mr. Wright? Miss Skye, please testify once more. But if evidence was fabricated behind your back, then Emma's accidental killing of Prosecutor Marshall might also be a lie. But I do remember knocking over Mr. Marshall. Miss Guy, if you will. I can't.
There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. This cross-examination may not change a thing. However, there is a possibility that it will if you tell the truth.
Very well, I'll testify about what I really saw.
All right, the witness may testify once more for the final time.
When I arrived, I found Mr. Marshall's body impaled on that suit of armor sword. Emma and Dark were lying unconscious on the floor nearby. When I saw what had happened, I thought she did it. That's why I erased all of the evidence that linked to her to the murder. I had Chief Gant help remove the body from the sword and carry it. But if it all really was a fabrication, Emma might be innocent.
Unbelievable. The body was impaled on the armor sword?
You were the only one who saw that. If only you had proof.
Actually, I do have proof. I gave it to Mr. Wright just this morning.
What? To me?
It's a picture I took of the crime scene as I encountered it. I thought it might be needed. But I don't remember receiving a picture like that. Lana must have known... See, Mr. Wright, she really does have faith in you.
Very well, Mr. Wright. Please present this picture.
I don't remember receiving any pictures from Lana. Lana said she gave it to you this morning, right? I seem to remember getting something from her then. Let's check that evidence again. There must be a picture in there somewhere.
Hey, there's a picture here.
Oh my. This is the actual crime scene. No other detective saw the crime scene like this, because I contacted Criminal Affairs only after I had rearranged everything. Mr. Wright, that piece cut out from his vest, could that be...
The cloth we found inside Chief Gant's safe. What's this?
This is a handprint, isn't it? That cloth, it had fingerprints on it. Whose ever fingerprints those are must be the real murderer. What? But those fingerprints... They're yours, Emma. Why are your lips turning all purple, Mr. Wright?
Anyway, let's get on with the cross-examination. So long as you tell the truth, we should be able to flush out the real murderer.
Very well. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Come now, Archie. This is the poorest excuse for a trial I've ever seen. Chief Gant. What now? You want me to make... What now? You want to make me out as the bad guy, too? If so, I'd like to put a word or two in my defense.
I'm afraid it's too late for that.
What?
You already declined to testify. That means you forfeited your right to make statements of any sort.
This must be that risk we were talking about earlier.
Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of the noose tightening around your own neck.
So what? You think I'm worried? Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't need to make any statements.
What do you mean?
The evidence will do all the talking for me. Even if I can't testify, I can still present evidence. Yes, that's true. Wait, you mean you still have some conclusive evidence? No, I don't, but someone does. Someone? So, what's your excuse, right-ho? Why have you been keeping quiet about it? You do have something to show us, right? Something that proves who knocked over Neil Marshall, causing his death.
Question, if the sword was up in the air, how was a 15-year-old girl able to lift him up on the sword? In any case, he would have been knocked into the feet of the armor. Good question.
Conclusive evidence that leaves no room for doubt. Is this true, Mr. Wright?
If I show that piece of evidence now, Emma's sure to be made out as the murderer.
Mr. Wright, if you have any more evidence, present it now. And if you try to conceal anything, you will be the one appearing before the Board of Inquiries.
What do I do now? Better think this through carefully. I can't afford to make the wrong decision. Should I present that piece of evidence? The one that shows who really killed Prosecutor Marshall? Can't show it. Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time.
What? You lie! Chief Gant? You opened my safe. I know you took what was inside. The conclusive evidence.
I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Wright, why don't you show them? We found it together.
Oh, I see. It's because you know the truth, don't you? You know whose fingerprints are on it. That's why you won't present it.
What are you talking about, Chief Gant?
Can't you figure it out? Take a good look at this picture. See the victim's vest? Notice anything odd about the chest area? It looks like part of it's been cut out for some reason.
You mean you had this in your safe?
What? That means you, the chief of police, have been concealing evidence? This is going to be the biggest scandal in the history of the police department. Impressive. To be honest, I didn't think you had the gall, Righto. Well, I can't just let you pin me up as the murderer. I'll tell you what really happened. What? You mean you admit to it? I was the first person to arrive at the crime scene that day. It then occurred to me that I could use the situation to control Lana.
So you really were manipulating her?
I knew Lana. If I made it look like the blame lay with her sister, that's when she saw the scene. When she saw the scene, she would ask me for my aid.
So you assisted Miss Sky?
I told her to arrange all the evidence. I had her plant the knife tip in the victim's body and move the body across the room.
And I ended up using that evidence to get Joe Dark convicted.
When I tampered with the crime scene, I hid two pieces of evidence. This was before Lana arrived at the scene, mind you.
Two pieces of evidence? You mean those items in your safe?
But why? For insurance, of course.
Insurance?
I was sure my plan would work, but it's always best to be prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let anyone blame me for a murder that girl committed. You mean you were calculating that far ahead while forging the evidence? What do you take me for, a fool? I didn't make police chief by dumb luck. See this jaw fragment? I hid the most legible part of Emma's name. I wouldn't expect Lana to go and wipe the blood off all the pieces.
But if you fabricated all the evidence, what's to say you didn't fabricate the message on this jar too?
Oh. Some people just don't know when to quit, do they? That's why I kept one more item for insurance.
You mean that piece of cloth?
Come on, Righto, cough it up already. I know you have it.
What are you waiting for, Mr. Wright? So you admit to it then, Chief Gant, that you were hiding the cloth you cut off the victim's vest in your safe?
Yes, I admit it. I didn't want to have to do that being chief and all. But it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say for yourself? Just a moment ago, you said you didn't have any evidence you could present. Foolish move, Righto. You should have shown it then before it was too late.
It's been a long battle. The moment of truth has finally arrived. As long as I don't mess up here, victory is mine. Your Honor, I do have evidence to present now.
All right, then, let's see this conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows who actually murdered Prosecutor Marshall.
Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest.
Oh, yes. At last you finally brought it out into the open. There's a handprint on this piece of cloth.
Your Honor, the prosecution requests that it be immediately sent to the lab for analysis. This handprint on the leather. There must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly.
You mean...
It could not have been forged. It must be authentic, conclusive evidence.
Oh. You're as slow on the uptake as ever, Worthy.
What?
Think about it. Right who had all this time to present this evidence? Yet he was reluctant to do so. Why would that be?
You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that? Mr. Wright, do you really know?
Whoever the fingerprints belong to must be the real murderer. Whose fingerprints are they?
Very well, I'll tell you. It should be okay now. Everything's proceeding as predicted. The person to whom these fingerprints belong to is... Bit of a grammatical error there, but okay.
Emma Skye?
What? They're mine? I'm sorry, Emma. But why? Why didn't you tell me?
Ho! You're really something, Righto. You knew this girl did it all along. And you still tried to pin the murder on me. So it's true. Tragic, but true. This girl really did shove Prosecutor Marshall to his death.
How could you? You monster!
Miss Skye?
You knew whose fingerprints those were all along, yet you acted like she really didn't. Miss Skye, it's not over yet. What? I said this trial isn't over yet.
Ha! But I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career, too. You purposely concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offense. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. I'll have your badge, boy. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Aren't you going to tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer?
Before I do that, there's just one little thing I have to clear up.
Oh, and what's that?
Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall?
What?
Chief Gant, you are absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you ask?
It was Emma Skye, wasn't it?
I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction.
What? A contradiction? What is this fool babbling about?
I'm talking about a contradiction. One that proves who the real killer is.
Mr. Wright, this piece of cloth, what could it possibly contradict?
Chief Gant, your tyrannical reign ends here. Behold, the piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth.
And what exactly is this supposed to be?
This is the picture Miss Skye took. Take a good look at it. See where this piece of his vest was cut out?
Yes, his shirt is showing underneath. It's hard to make out with all the blood on his vest, though.
Exactly my point. His chest is soaked with blood. That's only natural. His lungs, no doubt, were punctured. Blood poured out of his mouth.
Oh, but that piece of cloth... Wait. There's no blood on it. Ah!
Since Emma Skye's fingerprints are on this cloth, there's no doubt that she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on the sword at that time.
No, this is nonsense!
Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was not impaled when he shoved aside. He most likely hit his head on the ground and was knocked out. If so, then tell me, who could it have been? Who could have arrived at the scene before Miss Lana Skye, picked up the unconscious prosecutor, and impaled him on the armor's sword? Then, to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, said person proceeded to write her name on the jar with the victim's blood. A jar that they broke on purpose to leave behind a clue. And make Lana believe her sister did it. Remember what you admitted only moments ago? That you personally cut out this bloodless piece of the victim's vest? Ironic, isn't it? Through the very act of creating insurance, you proved that you were the actual murderer.
No!
It's finally all over.
That was close, Raito. You almost had me. Sorry, but you'll have to do better than that. I refute your allegations. What do you mean you refute his allegations? You see, that piece of cloth is illegal evidence. Order! Order! What nonsense is this? Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a suspect. Remember, Aji? Early old Raito here concealed that piece of cloth. So then, what's your excuse, Raito? You do have some conclusive evidence, don't you?
Your Honor, I don't have any evidence that I can present at this point in time.
Well, it's true. The defense did refuse to present evidence. At that moment, that piece of cloth ceased to be legal evidence.
But that's not fair!
Did you actually think you could best me in court? It looks like the last laugh's on you, son. I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Why, Mr. Edgeworth?
True, illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a person. Assuming, of course, that the evidence is indeed illegal.
Well, Mr. Wright?
It seems, at last, the time for me to reveal my plan has finally arrived.
Mr. Wright, do you admit to it? That you purposefully and illegally concealed this piece of cloth?
I did not. I admit that I refused to present it at one point.
Haha! So the evidence is illegal.
No, it isn't, Mr. Gant.
Huh?
It's not that I didn't present evidence then. It's that I couldn't.
What do you mean you couldn't?
There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence.
No, Reggie, don't listen to his lies. He's nothing but a coward. You can't really believe it.
There is only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not?
Very well, let's settle this once and for all. Earlier, you refused to present evidence. If you can prove your conduct was not in violation of the law, then do so now.
This is my proof, Your Honor. Evidence law.
What's this?
I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Skye's fingerprints were on this piece of cloth. However, at that point in time, this was merely a piece of cloth, nothing more.
What?
You see, it's written right here in this book. The second rule of evidence law. Rule number 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. I found this piece of evidence myself inside your safe. It goes without saying that I did not have approval from the police department. Rule 2, unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial.
And here is the crux of the matter. You see, at the time it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL9 incident.
What? What kind of nonsense is this? You want relevancy? Just take one look at this picture and...
Sorry, but can you recall when that picture was presented?
It was shown only a few moments ago. No!
He's right. At the beginning of today's trial, that piece of cloth was still meaningless. The person who gave it value as evidence was you, Damon Gant. You yourself confessed to a certain truth. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest.
Oh, yes. No!
It was then that you approved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes, you, the chief of police, personally approved this cloth. The only person who could have cut this from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moments. In other words, the real murderer. And there's only one person who that could be. Damon Gant, the killer was you!
I knew I should have gotten rid of him. That good-for-nothing scum. For 2 years, he's been snooping around the department trying to get something on me. Crimes are being committed every day, and yet he's insisted on hounding me.
Well, your crime wasn't exactly petty.
He wanted to reinvestigate the case. He recruited Angel Starr, then convinced Bruce Goodman.
Detective Goodman?
Yeah, that's right.
If the evidence is transferred, I'll lose my only chance to find out the truth. Please, you've got to help me.
Goodman turned him down, as he ought to. Still, Jake Marshall didn't know when to quit.
He stole Goodman's ID card and tried to take the evidence.
Goodman came to me that day. He wanted to file a lost item report. I went with him to the evidence room, and all of a sudden he decided to speak out. What are you talking about, Goodman?
Can you please reopen the investigation, Chief? We can't transfer the evidence out. There are too many questions left unanswered.
He opened his evidence locker, and as he was taking the evidence out, he said,
It's not too late. I'm gonna hand all this over to Marshall.
well, to be honest, I was a bit taken aback by his words. I had a bad feeling when he came to see me, but I never thought he'd bring up SL9. That's when I saw it, that cursed knife. I couldn't just pull it out.
Doing so would have led to only led to more blood, making it near impossible to hide your crime.
Even so, the blood was just pouring out. I didn't know who might stumble in, so I hurried to wipe it up. I was worried so much about the floor, I didn't realize my fatal mistake.
That bloody handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker.
I used to be known as a crime computer. But everyone has to start somewhere, I guess. I was too nervous. I had no business doing any of it.
And you put the body in my car?
I'm sorry, I couldn't think of any other way to move the body. I broke your trunk, but what's the big deal? You make a lot more than us detectives ever will.
Leaving the prosecution's car aside, how could you get Miss Sky involved in all this?
Well, she had as much to lose as I did if the truth came out.
So you took the evidence from Detective Goodman's locker?
I felt bad for having to do it. Also didn't have time to pick and choose what to take.
So, you left the jar fragments in the glove.
Yeah. Looks like I was better off being an investigator of crimes than a committer. They all did their best to get in my way. I've got to hand it to them. They do their jobs well, much to my dismay.
Fake evidence doesn't hold up very well upon close examination. You must have known that.
Tell me, Worthy, why do you stand in court?
Me?
You despise criminals. I could feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. You're just one man. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it alone. Well, looks like it's time to say goodbye. Oh, Archie. What? Looks like we'll have to cancel that lunch date. Sorry, old friend. I'm sorry too, Damon Gant. I knew you as you used to be long ago. You were once a fine investigator, and an example to others on the force. And I'm sorry to learn you are no longer that person. Those days are gone now, Archie. Thanks for all the memories, though. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Now you have Raito here, and Worthy. With these two around, you can't go wrong. In fact, I can hear them already. The melodious sounds of a new beginning.
There are two things I want you to understand. Yes? First, your sister never hurt anyone. Second, Damon Gant betrayed you from the beginning. You see, Miss Sky, you no longer have any reason to keep silent. You're right. When this trial is over, I'll tell everything. All that I've done these past 2 years, from the time I had Gant help me forge evidence up until today.
So, it seems that all the questions raised in this trial have been answered.
I'm sorry, Miss Sky, I couldn't get you out of all your trouble. My, what high standards you have for a rookie. I can see why Mia thought so highly of you. Who knows, a few years from now you might just make it to the top. I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. Miss Sky. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. Believe me, I know how much of an ordeal it's been for you.
It was nothing.
Liar. I was worried the pressure might break you, and yet you rose above it all and guided Mr. Wright to victory. You've done well, Mr. Edgeworth.
Stop it. I only did my job. In light of this case, it seems a good self-examining is in order for all of us. Miss Sky?
Yes, Your Honor?
You are innocent of murder. However, although the chief blackmailed you, this fact is you still acted as his accomplice. A trial will be scheduled for these crimes at a later date.
Yes, I understand, Your Honor.
Is there something amusing about all this? Why are you smiling?
It's been a long time, Your Honor. Long time since I felt free of these heavy chains.
Oh, this trial has gone on far too long already. Regarding the charge of murder, this court finds the defendant, Miss Lana Sky, that is all. This court is adjourned.
At long last, it's finally over. Emma? Why the long face? I'm sorry your sister didn't get completely off the hook, but at least she wasn't convicted for a murder she didn't commit. No, that's not it. Just now after the trial ended. I can see why Mia Fey thought so highly of you. I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. You've done well. You know, I did my best too, but
Lana didn't say a single word to me.
Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Oh, I guess I am. I'll come back later.
Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it?
You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top it off, you call me here. I've seen happy for people at funerals.
Anybody getting deja vu?
Hey, lighten up, pals. I'm only kidding.
Oh, are you here because of my sister again?
Nope. Not this time. I came today because of you, pal.
Me?
That's right. I thought you'd like to see someone.
But Lana! Should you be doing this? She's still under arrest, you know.
Well, I won't tell if you won't.
Emma, I owe you an apology. It's okay, sis. Don't worry about it. That day 2 years ago was the first time in my life I ever panicked. It was all I could do to keep myself from screaming. All I could think about was keeping you from getting wrapped up in that mess. Sis, I asked Yetna to help me cover up the truth. I thought I was doing it for your sake. But now I realize I was wrong. I changed after that day. I had to. It was the only way I could make it through the past 2 years. I knew how much I was hurting you by distancing myself. But I couldn't bring myself to tell you what I did. I was scared. I was scared that you'd look at me with those eyes of yours. I was scared of how you'd react if you knew. But sis, you were only doing it for me. No. Huh? I turned my back on you that day. And hiding what I believed to be the truth, I was deceiving you. Sis, I'm such a fool. It took me all this time to realize it. Emma, I'm so sorry. Sis, you don't have to apologize. I'm happy now. You're happy? Of course. No, sis. I always knew that one day you'd come back. And now you have. Oh, Emma. Emma. No one can change the past. The only thing we can do is strive to make up for our mistakes. Why must we make up for our mistakes, you ask? Because in so doing, we can find the way back to our rightful path. And it's from there that we can move on towards a brighter future. At least, that's what I felt watching the two sisters make up. Mr. Wright, Mr. Gumshoe,
Me?
thank you both for all that you've done. I'm sure we'll meet again someday. Isn't that right, Edgeworth? Edgeworth? Stop hiding and come over here. Where was he hiding?
I just came to say congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth.
Right, well, I'll be going now.
Mr. Edgeworth, I hope you don't blame yourself for what happened. Nah, I think he's just socially awkward. We were the ones who acted corruptly, not you.
It's too late for me. No matter what anyone may say, I realize today that I can't correct my mistakes.
Mr. Edgeworth.
Not only that, but I don't even trust myself anymore. Chief Gant was right. You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. You're just one man. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it alone. I do despise criminals. I plan to dedicate my entire life to fighting them. But in order to fight crime on my own, I need a weapon. It's scary, but I've known that to be true for quite some time now. But Edgeworth, who knows? Given enough time, I might have tried to pull something like Chief Gant did. That thought terrifies me. That's why I can't continue on as a prosecutor. Edgeworth, don't you understand? Damon Gant and your mentor, Manfred von Karma, were both the best of the best when it came to fighting crime. But they both made the same mistake. You said in order to fight crime on my own, I'd need a weapon. That may be true, but think back to today's trial. You weren't alone. You were working together with Mr. Wright. And because of that partnership, you were able to present evidence that otherwise would have gone undiscovered. Isn't that right, Mr. Wright? Huh? What? Oh, yeah. What is this, a pop quiz? Come on, Mr. Wright, show him what Lana's talking about. Evidence, huh? Something that neither Edgeworth nor I would have been able to find on our own. What was that? Good golly. That I want to say it's this evidence list.
Take that!
That's the picture I drew. Our counterattack began with this. You had one half of the evidence list, and I had the other. Apart, we wouldn't have been able to completely restore Emma's picture. That didn't just happen by chance, Mr. Edgeworth. It's time for me to go. Mr. Edgeworth. If you'll excuse me, there are still some loose ends that need wrapping up. Take care, Chief Prosecutor. Edgeworth, what will you do now? Well, whatever you do, just remember, you can let what happened kill the prosecutor in you, or you can let it help you grow. In the end, it's up to you. I know. It seems I owe you my thanks too, right? But what I face now is my problem. Edgeworth, I'll be waiting for you in court. Farewell. I'd better be going too. Okay, but I'll be by to visit soon. It seems we both have a lot to learn and catching up to do. Here, this is a little something for you. Scientific investigation? It's the first book I ever bought. Study it well. Thanks, sis. I will. And so another case came to a close. As for the sisters, I have faith. Faith that their lives have only just begun. And as for me, I think it's time I started a new journey of my own. A journey to rediscover myself.
Well, don't go trekking off just yet, pal.
Huh? What is it, Detective?
There's just a little matter to be resolved about the chief prosecutor. You see, she isn't supposed to be out of jail like this.
But I thought you said it was okay.
Yeah, well, it may be okay with me, but the folks at the prison are a different story.
Huh?
Basically, I had to bribe a guard in order to sneak her out for 30 minutes. Believe me, it wasn't cheap either.
Huh? Way to go, Detective. I didn't know you had a wild side.
Yeah, well. You see, Mr. Wright here's the one who'll be footing the bill.
Huh? Huh?
What, you think I could afford it with my salary? You gotta be kidding me, pal!
Huh? 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 Thank you, Mr. Wright. You're the best.
Why is it I suddenly feel like I want to scream? Hey, I got an idea. Why don't we all go pay it off together?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Come on, guys. Let's go.
Objection!
And that is the finale, although I think there might be a little epilogue. Yeah, there's epilogues. I arranged for a friend of mine in Europe to take care of Emma. I hope she'll be pleased to study under a top coroner. As for me, this affair has pretty much ended my days at the prosecutor's office. Still, I'll manage to find my way back to the field somehow. Then I'll be able to investigate crimes together with Emma. 6 games later.
Yikes, I thought it was a goner for a moment there. In the end, though, they overlooked my unauthorized investigation of the chief's office. If we penalized you anymore, it'd be worse than firing you. Yep, that's what they said. It just goes to show you can't shake me off that easily. My new mission is to guard the main entrance and take care of Billy! Can you believe it? I've been promoted to a security guard! My partner's keeping an eye on the entrance for me today. I'll show them, though! Someday I'm gonna make detective! Yes, sir, then I can be just like that Dick Gumshoe!
All the role models you could pick. Alright, have a good night, Ed-Fan. Thanks for sticking around. I will be back on Sunday with more Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm gonna see this through to the end, though, so we can go ahead and wrap this up. Oh, it broke. Good night.
What is it? Can't you see I'm having me a showdown with a steak lunch partner? Miss Star managed to sneak this into me. She's seen one of the guards, it seems. Well, cowboy, looks like you did it. You even gave Bambina back her smile. Can you make sure Billy and the gang get their water?
We've been roll credits for a couple minutes now. Looks like we won't be seeing each other for a while. As a farewell gift, I put a new meal on the menu, the Right Way lunch. The top layer tastes as bitter as defeat, but the bottom layer is as sweet as victory. Kids seem to dig the turnabout theme. It's a hot seller around exam time. Just make sure not to eat it backwards. Just wanted to say it? Okay, gotcha.
I'll never forget what that young defense lawyer said after the trial. Let's see, what was his name again? Mr. Left? Anyway, he said he's been doing something or other for, how many years? Well, anyway, I've got another trial to get to, so I'd better be... Huh? Oh no, I forgot my gavel! Sorry, gotta go.
Nothing soothes the soul like fresh country air. Still, sometimes I do miss hearing you and your objection. Still, I can't go back until I'm a full-fledged spirit medium. Mystic Maya, afternoon training's about to begin. Coming. Well, see you around, Nick.
Foreshadowing. Mr. Edgeworth? Mr. Edgeworth? I brought you your tea. What's going on? Also foreshadowing.
Thanks for coming to see me off. I can't believe I'm going to Europe. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Thank you so much for everything. I'm a little sad, but I'll be alright. Whenever I want to see Lana, all I have to do is open this book. Chibi Emma. Alright, and that is it for the first game in the trilogy. So, I will play the second game eventually. I do not have a set time on which I plan to do that. I've got some other stuff that I want to finish up before that happens. So, but I will keep everyone posted here. Again, I will be streaming Horizon Zero Dawn on Sunday. And with that, I am going to bid you all good night because it has been one heck of a long stream. So I am ending it here. Thank you all so much for joining. This is Dr. Novelle signing out.
Goodbye.
Have a wonderful week.